to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
He is himself actually has admitted that he bribed members of parliament,
he admitted that he bribed members of parliament?
Well, when he said
the government.
When he said that he gave the 10 million was for what?
We're always quick to point faults in somebody else before you look at your own faults as a person.
If it was Kanu's day, hii amuka naye leo ungekuwa umeenda bali sana hii. So we must celebrate you.
There are 600 million people now globally estimated to be living with diabetes in the world. So it is a major health problem. It's the largest single disease rising pandemic that we're dealing with right now.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
Presidency is fairly interesting in the sense that it will actually take us to a new consciousness.
Swali zile watu waulizi na swali muuliza na shangala ni aje kwani huku kunaendaje?
30 billion shillings annually on travel alone in public service.
A Kenyan can even demonstrate every single day of his life that Ruto must go. That is the only message of his demonstration. That is his right.
That bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and subverts the cause of those who are in the right.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, stagi kuongea. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow
I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing policy of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's the 8th of December, and we're here, Mama.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm injecting myself.
Inject.
With, it's called what? Ora Kuomene. Life. Impetus, what? Inspiration. We gotta keep one foot in front of the other, guys, no matter what.
Yep.
Kabisa. It's the 8th of December.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's 17 days to your birthday.
Kabisa.
17.
17.
Yeah, only.
That's like 2 weeks, 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
Yo. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and my brother is home.
Oh, yay.
With the children.
Nice.
A Christmas tree is up.
Oh, how about that?
And Mzee is very happy.
He's happy.
It's
happy. Good.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
like
that time.
when all those kids are running around.
Yeah, they normally are, isn't it?
I just realized that money is, like 10 grandchildren, man.
You guys have tried. Well done. Populate the earth. Yeah, good job, guys.
When I just sit up to think about it, there's a time when we were grandchildren too.
Right.
Now they are the grandparents.
They are grandchildren. Exactly. They're grandparents. Ah, wow. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Fun times.
Mm-hmm.
Fun times, that's for sure. And it's that time, you're putting up the tree or doing things. People are traveling. Yeah. A lot of people have started to move around. We're getting into the time of the year where actually it's Christmas. People are family. People are traveling. People are getting together.
Yeah.
Even if it's just sit in the same space. The things that we probably took for granted the whole year round, and you have the opportunity to do so. And I find myself thinking about those people this time of year who have no one.
Yes.
Or don't have anything.
Yeah.
So two things happen that I then feel extremely grateful and appreciate what I have, but at the same time pray for situations whereby those who might be in a tough spot get better. So yeah, it's a time of year where we really appreciate what we have and then pray for those who don't. Honestly, because it can't be fun to get by yourself.
I think also just sending condolences to the family of my best friend Dennis Kidagisa. He passed on yesterday. Pretty tough for us.
I'm sorry about that.
So went to college together, friends. Also, I know KQ has lost a member because he was a flight attendant there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty tough.
It's tough, I can imagine.
What to do?
Pole sana. That's how we wake up this morning.
Yep.
And then, just have to forge ahead. It was a weekend. Unfortunately, there was a lot of bad news this weekend. I too, one of my best friends growing up, he lost his wife yesterday morning. And it was just like, oh, Lord, what's going on? Not at this time of the year,
At this time of the year.
But we can give ourselves hope.
Yeah.
At the very least.
I mean, that's one thing we can't afford to lose, man. Because if you lose hope, then what are you trading on?
Exactly. That's true. It's true. And in everything, you can give yourself hope and can be positive about things,
Yes.
They say the only sure thing about life, Dennis, is death.
Yes.
That's the only sure thing. But
and every soul must taste it.
Yeah. At some
Whether
point.
an animal.
Yeah.
For a person. Yeah.
We give ourselves hope in that there's life. For sure. And we're getting into that this morning. Good morning, everybody. And Karibuni Sana. Thank you for, always... I thought about something as well, that just when you turn on the mics, it's not being arrogant, it's not being conceited, but you turn on the mics and you know that there's somebody who's listening.
True.
And that you know that many more people are going to click in. That you guys have given us that confidence to say that we're definitely going to be speaking to somebody every day.
Yes.
it's a good thing. And so thank you so much for coming into the Situation Room every morning like you do, and giving us an opportunity to then orchestrate this discourse. But we are not the folks in the band. We may be at some point, maybe the conductor, but it's all of us together. An orchestra is never anything with just the conductor. It has to be everybody playing in concert.
I mean, it's deep because people allow us into their lives. Someone might be listening, but they have granted us an opportunity to be part and parcel of their daily lives. So think of the people who listen to us. We have doctors, we have masons, we have drivers, everybody giving us an opportunity to be part of that life that they push every day.
Absolutely.
So say thank you.
It's an opportunity for us to say thank you, and thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing it from January to December. And even as we do this, we just take that moment to say thank you. So for those of you who listen silently, for those who listen religiously, for those who listen and comment, for those who call in, for those who come in and have conversations with us, for those who make it an all-round thing, today we take the opportunity to say thank you to you. And for those of you who make it happen and we never see you, EVE, we see you.
Yes.
And even Lydia, just making it happen in the background when you do, and Christine taking it a couple of days off, but folks who put this show are all 24 hours round, that people can see it later, and we thank you for that. We don't take it for granted at all, making it happen. And for those who wake up in different parts of the world and stay awake to listen to the show, again, we thank you. So we're taking a moment of gratitude this morning, and it's not, we don't take it for granted at all. Thank you for tuning in. Our live streams are open this morning on Facebook, YouTube, and on X, and also our audience on KTN. Good morning and karibuni sana into the Situation Room today, coming in off of a weekend of interesting things happening. How about we tell you the conversations that we will be having today? And as we get into that, it's always good that we can let you know. 7 a.m. we will have a conversation round about the scathing attack. What was it, an attack or a scathing expression that the church let out on government? And they did this last week. So what we will have today at 7 a.m. is a conversation with Reverend Dr. Elias Otieno Agola, who is the chairman of the National Council of Churches of Kenya. He was right there on the seats during that presser and also during that meeting in Limuru. He'll be joined by Bishop Tony Kiama, who's the lead pastor of the KG River of God Church. We'll be talking about the church versus state. The youth, is the future of youth in limbo? Is it, when we look at these young people? When we think about our young people, when we think about us as younger into older people, how are we having conversations into the future? What is it that the church meant? We'll have that conversation at 7. It'll be followed by a conversation at 8 o'clock with the party leader of the People's Liberation Party, Martha Karua. Her take on the state of democracy in East Africa. She's been involved in all 3 countries, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. And those are not just the 3 countries of East Africa, but we're looking at the tripartite that formed the EAC. Before, when, of course, there were entrants like Rwanda and Burundi, and then going into Sudan and South Sudan. So we'll talk with her. She'll join us at 8 o'clock, and then we'll round things out with a conversation with Gladys Mungai, who is the Kenya Human Rights Commission Senior Program Advisor on Land, Environment, Resource and Justice. She'll be joined by Annette Nerima, who is also Kenya Human Rights Program Manager. We're going to be looking at the economics of repression. The economics of repression and land inequality. There's a peg to that. We'll let you know what that is as we go along. So those are what the conversations look like this morning, and we're getting into it proper today. Thank you for being here as we do. As we do that, we'll take a minute to look at today's proverb. I don't know where you've taken us to this week.
So the proverb today is just from Africa. So, and it's all about examining what is said. So examine what is said, not who is speaking. Examine
what is said, and not who is speaking. Wow.
Because then from examining what is said, you get to know the brain, the heart, and the person who's speaking.
So there's a story that's told of, so my father used to tell us all the time. A lot of the stories of who we are and all of that came from the stories that my father would tell. And so the story is told of a madman in the village who wasn't mad his whole life, but he went mad somewhere into his adulthood. And certain things would happen in the village. And he would tell people in advance. So he was walking in the street, of course, partly naked, making noise at all hours of the day. And people would say, this one doesn't know what he's talking about. He's crazy. So he would give warnings of things to come. And he would say, every day he would give a particular story. So there was one day, a man from a far off land had come to the village. He was going to marry a girl. And in his previous life, he had traveled quite a lot as a tradesman. And before, of course, he lost his mind partially. And so he told the people of the village, danger is coming. Danger is coming. Do not allow your daughter to be married to this man who is coming. Danger is coming. Of course, it's coming from a man who is in the village, and often people think that he's mad. So they refused to listen to what he said. He was allowed to come in and marry this woman. But then later on, about a few months after that, this man then came in with all his people, and they plundered the land, and they took everything essentially and burnt down burnt down crops, stole goods, and left essentially with a lot of the women and children to go back and farm their land. The vessel through which this message was sent was through somebody that everybody thought to be mad. So they didn't listen to what he said. So it's a beautiful example of what you say. It is not who is saying it sometimes, but it is what is being said, and how are we listening to that?
It's like when a child comes and tells you, "Dad, I've seen a snake."
Yeah, I see danger somewhere.
I see danger somewhere. How do parents react? Most of the time, because a child does not have any reason to lie. Yeah. So when they tell you that the first instinct is, go look at that witch, they say it's danger.
Yeah.
But if you just dismiss it as, this is a child, they perhaps do not even know how a snake looks like. It's until that time when you step into that lawn and you're bitten by the snake, then you realize,
yeah, this is what this child
had
was
actually
saying.
warned me.
Exactly. You'd rather take the extra minute to go and actually check it out.
True.
And let it be nothing. Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good one. It's a good message this morning. All right, let's take a minute to say hello to everybody as we get into things today. Asante Sana for joining us as you do. A very good morning to you, Robert Mbogo, tuned in from Mombasa. Don Sabwa wants me to ask Dennis Aseto a question. Okay, I will ask. And to ask Aseto, how does it sound when some Kenyans have come out defending Mama Suluhu, as there seems to be another protest looming soon?
I mean, everybody has their own decision and opinion, so pretty much that's what they've chosen. So they have to just drink their coffee. They prepared it.
Voila.
That's what democracy allows you to do.
It's true.
Yeah.
Kabisa. Zach OK says, good morning, it's Spice family from the U.S. capital of Somalia. Okay. Good morning from Minnesota. Good morning to you, Desmond Otis as well. Good morning to Aseto and absentee Okari. Okay. Weatherman and Asema Mvua Itanyesha Lini. Well, they had said no more rain until February, but we're seeing some trickles.
Some trickles, yeah.
So let's see what happens. Weatherman may not be on the money on this one, but let's wait and see. Good morning to Aseto. Yes, we see you. Good morning, Team Spice. Have a lovely week, says Jennifer Atenyi. Good morning to you. Karibu Sana. Bwangi Juma is also tuned in this morning. Says, how are you all this blessed Monday? We're doing well. Good morning from Preston in the UK. Tomorrow is protest day in East Africa. Rahimtullah Omar, I see you. Is that a public holiday? I'm asking for EVE. Kiarie says, good morning. Tuned in from Mombasa. Taking sleeping pills and thinking you slept well is like taking a loan and thinking you have money. Where? Where? Tibbs Muge, good morning to you. Karibu Sana. Rose Gray says, good morning, Ndwana Seto. Hope you had a good weekend and a good week ahead. Rose, good morning to you, my sister. Thank you so much. Nyakundi Emmanuel says, good morning, Spice. Before our final in 2027, we pray for our brothers in Tanzania and Uganda. Have a blessed day. Sasa, unajua nini? Elections, Uganda, very close. Okay, so we'll keep talking. Eric Orr says, good morning, guys. Good morning to you, Eric. Leo, good morning. He says, good morning, Princess Ndu and Aseto. If Mbadi accepts Ndindi Nyoro's challenge, we should be the moderator of the debate. Okay, sawa. Has the state and country engaged geologists to know why Nakuru is breaking up? Nakuru is breaking up.
Yeah.
It is. The earth is shifting.
Yeah, especially when you look at how do you call it? The tremor that happened in Ethiopia.
Yeah.
That has caused a tectonic shift.
Yeah.
So it is said in millions of years to come, we're going to be having a different island or continent altogether. So yeah.
Can we choose where we want to be? Okay, I'm sorry. It's all part of the Great Rift Valley.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
So which side do you want to be?
I'm thinking it's gonna shift. It's gonna break which way? It will be like Sub-Saharan Africa will be split.
It'll split, yeah.
Oh, okay. Let me think about that for a minute.
Me too.
I don't know, man.
Good thing is, there's gonna be an additional water source. So there's someone who wants.
Sorry, did I say that out loud?
There's someone who wants some piece of water. So perhaps maybe they'll have an opportunity.
Yeah, wait your turn, kind of thing. Yeah, Tibbs, we see you. Good morning. Hey, okay. Kimathi Nkrumah McConnell is tuning Wagwan SpiceFM family unaendeleaje tuko salama, the platform that delivers revolutionary journalism at all times. Ubuntu kabisa. Dolly Luck says, good morning, tuned in Team Spice. Thank you so much. Kenya Holmes says, good morning. After starting the process of selling the golden chicken, what is remaining hence peer data is supposed to make money? Aki, I don't know. I really don't know. Good morning, Spices, says Isakale. As the sun rises, grab your coffee and be reminded that no matter how long the night, light always wins. Let's spice up this Monday with joy, courage, and unstoppable energy. Kabisa, Isakale. Good morning. Good morning, Spice team. Into an Aseto watching from Portland in Oregon is Mashari and Njeri. Yes, there was a landslide in Nakuru. That's what you're reminding us of. And it created a slight crack in the ground. Then landslide happened and the sinking ground has been happening now. Then it has quite some.
Yeah.
Simon Kibiru says, good morning, team. Santisana. Michael Olanda is tuned in. Bonjour, mes amis. Bonjour. Stanley Ngashe says, good morning to a great team. Good morning, Stanley. Thank you for being here this morning. Good morning, Team Spice. Team Kubwa, Kabisa. Good morning to you. Linda Gola says, salut, mes amis. Salut, mon ami. How are you? Hope you're doing well. Fiery Red says, good morning. Ndu, Aseto, EVE, Lydia. Lydia is somewhere. She's fine. Fine. Simon, we see you. Christina, hey, good morning. I'm curious about the sound. Shanta Gold, Sha, Shif, then from the same person. Shakahola. I had a conversation about speaking in tongues the other day, and my God, people have been taking us for a ride.
Yeah. Anyway,
you can just put consonants together and tell us you're in the spirit. Yeah, so there's maybe something about that sound, Christina. I see the way you've woken up this morning. Well done. Raskodur says, good morning, Team Spice. Listening to my Morning Spice is always my favorite. Thank you for being here every morning. You say the proverb, Rahim Sula, reminds you of what I say and not what I am doing. Indeed. Parry Universe says, good morning, Team Spice, and everything nice. Has anyone noticed how dirty the CBD is? Great weekend. You guys, it's just that I didn't tell you. My Lord. I went into the CBD on Thursday. I think that's my problem. I think that's why I'm sad.
Wow.
Till today.
Which side of the CBD?
I just went over there. You see, over there, Nairobi Sports House, and then there's the crossover between Kenyatta Avenue and Moi Avenue. I felt like I was in a vortex of drama. It's just crazy. Either I have not been in the CBD in a long time, or I don't have a penchant for madness.
So there is that stretch, Moi Avenue, and then we have that stretch of buildings, and then there is this small part before you get to Kimathi.
Yeah.
There's that stretch.
Yeah.
Yo, that's a toilet, man.
I'm telling you.
That's a toilet. People are dunking all over the place.
It's not possible that the capital city looks the way it does in the city. No. This one is not because you're trying to, and maybe I was trying to forget it. You know how you have childhood trauma and then the child's brain still developing, then you park it somewhere?
Just gotta call it the city is filthy.
It's true.
The city is dirty, man.
You're right.
There's no other way of putting it.
It's true, Pare. It's dirty. At the very least, clean the city. Yeah. Then these other things, you want to raise parking to 520, you want to do what? Clean the city first. Come on. So clean it up.
You're raising the parking fee so that we park our vehicles where fine, the vehicle has tires, but where am I stepping once I'm out of the car? Apana, safisha, banana.
Sweep the thing. Wash it. Wash Nairobi. No. Imagine, Clean. In fact, I think that's in fact, if you asking me on Friday what was wrong, that was my problem, because in the traumatic, I was like, what is this? You're stepping over piles of garbage. People are trying to move. You
can't be hop stepping, jumping in the CBD.
Over Nini. No, not Nairobi, not anywhere. But come on, clean it up, sweep it.
No, you can't.
No,
it has happened before.
Clean Nairobi.
Clean Nairobi.
Nairobi has not grown in terms of its geographical size. Clean it.
We say Nairobi work. Watch it work.
No, bad man. Stop it. Clean the city. Stop it. In fact, that's our thing today. Clean Nairobi. For people who live outside of the city, we've seen clean counties. We have actually. Yeah. We've seen clean counties. I've been to Kwale County. Kwale, clean. Kisumu, surprisingly enough, after a time when it was going through a lot of drama, Kisumu, clean. Nakuru, okay. But it is possible to keep the county clean. Cleanliness is next to godliness.
Yes, and that is the Bible. It's not us.
Surely. No, imagine bad manners. This is our call out at 6:33 on Monday. Sweep it, clean it, stop it. No.
There's a time Kidero bought cleaning vehicles to sweep Nairobi. Zilienda wapi? Safisha. Msema muko na Green Warriors. What are they fighting if not that?
Nah, I'm angry. Kigali. Place like this.
Yeah.
What? No, man. No.
Apana.
You have to make a tie. You're right. Clean it.
Clean it.
Yeah, so now Pare has just woken up the beast. Gusta says, good morning, tuned in, Team Kenya. Elizabeth Eliza Fanjeri says, good morning. Thanks for the good job, Asante Sana, and thanks for the compliments. We love substance. Thank you so much, my sister. We mean it truly from the bottom of our hearts that you're with us here every day, Asante Sana. Washington Okechi says, good morning. I've decided that that's your name. If it's not, sorry, I've baptized you. Thanks for the good job. Indeed, it's freezing in Boston. It must be. How many degrees are we in Boston now? Let us know. James Gas says, good morning, Team Spice. Tumeuza bado ama kila mtu akona birth certificate yake. Well, just confirm that you still have it. Good morning from Dubai. And yes, our CBD is dirty, says Daphne. Had a Turkish friend who visited Nairobi and her phone is full of CBD's trash and dirt. It's very sad. Brian says, Sakaja. Sindio. Marchum says, good morning, Spice. Who is the madman in the city? That's a good question. Yes, P. Wangoi, we know that verse is actually not in the Bible. But we know that there's no verse in the Bible that says cleanliness is next to godliness. However, there are very many verses in the Bible that denote that if you are clean, then you imbibe the Spirit of God. That is what...
Because God is associated with...
There are very many verses, and I can pull that up for you, and I can show you what. There's no verse that actually says it, but there are many that talk about the fact that as you clean, this is what you aspire to. Good morning. Kennedy says, if you want to see the real looks of a thief, check on City. Ati? I'm not sure. Mongare says, good morning from Kikambala. Good morning, Spice. Ati munasema Shakaja amefanya Nairobi iwe kama Sakati. Destiny Eternity, good morning to you. Tunasema chukua, it's called what? Kifagio, maji na nini, sabuni. Clean the city. Stop this rubbish. Come on. You can't be politicking about everything. The city is dirty. Clean it first. Then we talk about these other things.
You know, our leaders go to these European countries every day, right? That's where they spend most of the time.
Yeah.
And when you just speak to the locals there, the reason why you find their streets are clean is because the country knows very well that if we have a beautiful and clean city, then our citizens are able to get into these spaces and produce the taxes that we do need. You're collecting taxes from the people of Nairobi. How much is that on a daily basis? But what are you doing with that? How do you expect people to leave their homes to come to a filthy town to produce taxes for you?
Do you know how many counties?
No.
Do you know how many people coming from different counties into Nairobi every day? And Nairobi is collecting cess.
Yes.
Nairobi is collecting cess as you enter into Nairobi. What are you doing with that money? The people you pay parking. How many vehicles are getting into the city and parking 300 shillings a day? How much money is Nairobi collecting that you cannot buy Omo?
Yeah.
I know I'm simplifying it, but that's the point.
So I have my business. I expect Kenyans to come and buy from me. So Kanjo can access, fine, we agree. But Kenyans who are supposed to buy from me cannot, because outside is a puddle that is full of...
Tell me now, that thing.
Apana. Safisha.
Yuck. Stop it. Yuck. Clean it.
Ukishindwa pia sema.
No, some things you actually now understand why people behave the way they do. If something as basic as carrying a broom and cleaning is an issue for you, it's annoying. Now here we are, Singapore. I see you, and we can't clean the capital.
You know, there's a time Nairobi was actually one of the cleanest cities in the region,
and then
Nakuru the same. What happened? And then you can just find. I also have just to call out people. How do you just walk into the CBD and just unleash your Zoom and decide to pee on a wall?
I mean, even you.
How do you just decide to go bend and just take a dump in the middle of the CBD? Like, what's your problem?
Actually,
who hurt you?
By the way, you know, we have to talk about these things sometimes because it's true. What's wrong with people? Why would you go and then openly defecate in the city? They're public toilets, which at least we can see sometimes that there are people out there with a broom and a mop trying to clean up the place. Why would you do that? It's true. We can talk about leadership and administration and governance, but we can also talk about the behavior of people. What are we doing, for goodness sake?
So here's the thing. The city council, clean up. But as well, if you find anyone just unleashing the Zoom and doing their thing in the middle of the CBD, arrest that person, put them inside and put them under hard labor. Let them clean the entire city for 3 months and not go to work.
I agree, by the way. Some serious community service.
You know, I mean, if we talk about the Singapores of this world, what happens in Singapore if you're found chewing gum?
And you throw it on the road.
You're
whipped.
Whipped in the middle of the CBD.
Yeah, it's true, by the way, you're whipped.
So it's about time we do the same. You know. And I have to call out men. You cannot just stand and unleash it and just pee.
Luckily, Akinyi, by the way, stop it. No, stop it.
No. Let's just call it for what it is.
I think today's that day. Just stop it. I'm just trying to get into the city from Valley Road. There's a loo there. By the time you get to Ambassador, there's another one. By the time you get to Railways, there's another one. Come on.
Let me tell you. Even when you live, if you're that bougie person and you don't want to use the public washrooms, just walk to KICC. They are clean washrooms there. You will do your business and walk.
Yeah. Or something. No, you guys, we can do better.
We can do better.
I don't know, we call on governance, we call on government, but we have a role to play as individuals. First world, let me tell you, if you're on that train and you're going to first world, they don't do those things.
They don't.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Tujiangalie.
Let's look into the headlines after blasting ourselves. We have a role to play, but yuck. Wildebeest blockade is on Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard, this morning. The rhythmic thunder of hooves that marks what many regard as the eighth wonder of the world, the annual wildebeest migration to the Masai Mara, may soon fall silent. This follows a president's directive allowing a hotelier, the Ritz-Carlton, to erect structures within the migration corridor, a move experts warn could disrupt the fragile ecosystem. Conservationists are beside themselves with consternation as they seek court orders to halt a calamitous decision that offers only short-term financial gains for a handful of powerful government figures. Of course, on the inset there is this executive office of the president, this order on the 30th of April 2024, which is saying exemption from presidential directive in regard of the government's commitment to cultivate favorable business environment and to facilitate both domestic and foreign investment. It's thereby fostering economic prosperity across the country to grant a one-time exemption from president directive to the JW Marriott to proceed to get a license to project in Masai Mara and such a project in Solio Ranch. This was signed by the Chief of Staff, Felix Koskei. Essentially, what they're saying with that long English is that you can come and build here inside and we're essentially lifting what you already put in place, that is a ban on erection of such things in this area. But we're lifting the ban for you guys. That last line of this headline. It's a decision that offers only short-term financial gains for a handful of powerful government figures. Not Kenya, a handful. Sasa, looking into some of the national headlines, Syokimau residents expose cartels abusing the system and seizing public land. You'll be surprised as to who those cartels are.
Yeah.
Kenya vets step up fights against impacts of climate crisis on wildlife, and land acquisition deals for carbon credits raise transparency concern, a report warns. We'll be talking about some of those things with the folks at KHRC at 9 a.m. The Ritz-Carlton is the high-end luxury resort that's stirring up rage in the Mara, and hospital gives preterm babies a second chance. I love it.
Yeah.
That this can happen, because they say that a baby up to 6 months can actually survive. So, it's giving them an opportunity. The Margaret Kenyatta mother-baby wing, looking into that. HIV advocates want disclosure of the Kenya-US $323 billion shilling health deal. I agree. Tell them exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
Parliament orders 10 billion shillings NHIF payout to rescue failing hospitals, give them their money, essentially pay them, stop this rubbish, so that they don't have to die under the pressure of lack of funding. DP question, Kindiki's loud voice in mini polls leaves Ruto agonizing. But why? So, NEC rolls out senior school hubs as CBE reform takes shape. Okay, I already am having heartburn this morning, so I'm not going to dwell too long on that story. Western Kenya gears for political shift as Khalwale leaves Ruto camp. The man was vocal this weekend, was he not?
Yes.
After he was removed as the whip. He said, "Who did I tell you that a whip is what I need?" Clearly doesn't need a whip, so we're moving. Landslide buries graves and road in Nyandarua. The earth is definitely shifting, folks. And what are we doing to remain safe with all of that? All right, that's what it looks like for the Standard for now. We'll look into more details.
Yeah, let's look at the Daily Nation. How Russian agents lure Kenyans to war. Now, it is collateral damage. Police officers acting on intelligence tip of arrested 13 Kenyans and their host at an apartment in Nairobi on September 24th in an operation that lifted the lead on a thriving scandal targeting the jobless and those seeking greener pastures abroad. On paper, the job seekers sign up for employment as drivers, guards and related casual jobs with promises of up to 300,000 shillings in monthly pay. But once in Russia, they are forcibly conscripted into the military and taken to the front line in the war with Ukraine. With this one, we say, police, asante sana. Those who are in charge should as well be charged in a court of law for lying. Then we have a dark web of short-term rental, debt, dating apps, and online messaging in Kenya. That is also what many call Airbnbs in many parts of the country. That is on page 2 and page 3 of the Daily Nation. Why TSC is worried about schools in 2026? Why? We will look into that. UDA splashes 180 million shillings on party polls. So we know our parties are going to nominations, and those who will be going towards that 180 million shillings.
Right.
Yes. And tourism boom as Kenyans flock to the coast and stream into national parks and reserves. We are also realizing that some of the parks are also going through difficult times. The Mara and that hotel that is there, and conservationists are saying if we don't play right by the animals, they will just move. They know how to adopt,
Yeah.
And uproar over tea bonus disparity. The senators are pushing for the Kenya Tea Development Authority to adopt a scientific method of determining tea quality to address disparities in payments to tea farmers by factories across the country. And we have TSC says internship doesn't guarantee permanent jobs. So conversation has changed. Initially, you intern, and after that period, you are confirmed as permanent and pensionable. Now, they are saying internship does not guarantee what? Permanent jobs.
So,
yes.
Sorry. The teachers that were hired, almost 100,000, now getting to 100,000 by January, like we are being told. We were also told that a number of them were intern teachers, Nespa?
Yeah.
So what we're essentially saying now, why is it when they've said we've hired teachers, why doesn't TSC raise their hand and say, excuse me, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to keep them because they're interns? Why don't we ever hear that conversation happening at the same time? I'm just asking.
Yeah, and you see, as they say that, TSC says Senior school rollout to worsen teacher shortage. So in one hand, you're saying we will experience worse teacher shortage, but in the meantime, those who are supposed to be employed on permanent pensionable terms, who are already interns working for you, it is not a guarantee.
So now TSC is worried. Now today, 8th of December, they're worried about 2026.
2026, yes.
Okay.
Unaweza choka.
I'm telling you.
Unaweza choka sana. Let's see what else we have on other pages here. We have budget delays now hamper activation of county units. Treasury constraints, competing priorities have led to underfunding. And the Deputy President, Kithure Kindiki, vows offensive against bandits in Meru, Isiolo, and Samburu. You know, this thing has been all talk. I've not seen the walk yet.
Okay.
2026, we will still be talking about the same thing. Question is, are we investigating to know who is behind these cattle rustling and, you know, in these regions? Or are we just saying, they came, they stole, we will deal, but never do anything?
Do you remember the current deputy president was once the cabinet secretary for internals?
Yes, I remember.
He said he'll do what? Even if it means that he will sleep in the North Rift. He will sleep there until this cattle rustling story comes to an end.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Now he's saying the same as deputy president.
Has he slept there?
No.
Okay.
Si akona chopa.
Okay.
Check in, check out.
All right.
Sawa. Si tuangalie kaseti ingine.
Okay, yeah, let's, because vile tunaenda
tajam.
On the front page of the Star. Hey. The Star said, acha nichukue hiyo 2 billion, niongeze moja. Kenyans are losing 3 billion shillings daily to corruption in state tenders. According to a report, Kenyans are losing 3 billion shillings a day, 24 hours, 3 billion to corruption in state tenders. So that story ya Uhuru Kenyatta ya 2 billion a day.
Iliongezeka na moja.
Yeah, please. And this is according to a report. The new figure is up from 2 billion under the previous regime. So that's what I'm saying. Under this new regime now, 1 billion shillings has been added to that.
So let's just say 3 billion annually.
Yeah. My darling. 3 billion a day.
Oh yeah.
One day, 3 billion. Daily. Daily means what?
Yeah.
Daily means a day.
Yes.
All right. So it's your calculator has refused. All right. 3 times. It's a 900 billion.
It's a trillion.
It's 90 billion. Gotcha. My mathematics is not working. Gotcha, kidogger.
3D.
3 times 30.
365.
Yeah. That's 90 billion in a month times 365. Watch out to say my weekends are too easy, but let's just say times 300
90
days.
times 12.
90 times 12. No. Na mnatafuta pesa. Okay, no problem. Somebody said very clearly, you want to do this developed world story, get rid of corruption first. Start there and then clean the city. Come on. But happened to Tuko. 3 billion a day. We'll talk about that report in just a bit. Safaricom, Big Sale and Coop Bank pay top market talk. Of course, that's what the business circles are in. Does it actually mean that you're selling off shares? Who does it go to? The whole story of then what happens thereafter. Those are questions they are being asked. Kenya on course to becoming an oil exporter according to Petroleum PS Liban. So students are selling fuel. Not fuel. Students are selling oil. Exporter of oil. Okay. Senators clash with MPs over NADCO bill targeting rogue electoral officials, and why the Trump administration has put Kenya at the center of a new U.S. security strategy in Africa. You don't have to. It's a no-brainer. Look at where Kenya is positioned. I keep telling you, the United States. You think they're just going to go and do Mother Teresa work? Look at where Kenya is positioned strategically. You got an inlet to the Indian Ocean, port city. You also are very close to the Gulf of Aden. You also are close to these other countries whereby there are already naval bases, Eritrea, Djibouti, Ethiopia. you really think that when they're looking at strategic security points, that they're looking at Kenya because people say Jambo Bwana?
Karibu Kenya.
Habari gani? No, man.
You know, there's a question we asked. We gave out our data, health data. Can they give us theirs?
Who are you?
Okay. So it's not butter trade.
Stay there.
Okay.
Why HIV infections are high among sex workers? Well, I can give you a guess, but okay. Group 6 signatures to abolish tax on basic goods. Okay, well, that would be fun as well. This report is by TISA. It is by the Institute of Social Accountability. And that is some of the things that they're looking at. So it's kind of crazy, but they've given a rundown of those numbers and how much money is then lost to corruption. So Kenya could become an oil exporter. All right, well, it's a kind of wait and see. Gachagua blames the media over gaffe on Nairobi lineup. Okay, that was a couple of days ago. Star catch up, man. Trump's new strategy puts Kenya at central ally status. Kenyans in Tanzania anxious over alert of Tuesday's protest. Tuesday? Are we ready for Tuesday?
Are you ready for Tuesday?
They're saying, it could be a thing. So please, it would be interesting to hear then as we have that conversation with Martha Karua. All right, so those are some of the stories that we're looking at. They're all over the place. Not all over the place, but there's a lot going on in very many places. Trump, Ruto win big in Congo peace deal. Why should they win? The people of Congo should win. That's what's on the East African this morning. And looking at top stories coming in from East Africa, Addis burst bullish in quest for investors looking for money to come into the country. Beyond aid in caring for AIDS patients, South Africa looks beyond Washington for care. African airlines change direction. Domestic travel overtakes continental travel. Well, finally. Well, maybe. Elsie Akuze, who is a columnist, of course, gives her opinion there. We need a new language. There's a need for register for Tanzania politics. Relief for Africa, new AGOA proposal. And Samia faces pressure from West over rights. And the Business Daily this morning, World Bank turns heat on CA to cut call rates further. Yeah, please do that. Looking at headlines across the dailies making news this Monday, the 8th of December. Shall we look into this story about education and why TSC is confused and why NEC is saying that, okay, everything is okay? I tell you.
Tell me.
Tell us. I can't find the page, but here we go. Okay. NEC being the Kenya National Examinations Council, and they're saying that, where did the story go to? There it is. It rolls out senior school hubs as CBE reforms take shape. In a bid to ensure a smooth transition to the competency-based education, the Kenya National Examinations Council will roll out assessment hubs in senior schools across the country. Hubs. Okay. These hubs are expected to transform curriculum delivery, enhance continuous learner assessment, and modernize how students' progress is tracked across their learning pathways. The initiative comes as the government prepares for the transition of grade 9 learners into senior school in January. According to the NEC Chief Executive Officer David Njeri, the idea builds on the success of 235 junior school assessment hubs and the recently established Research, Innovation and Educational Assessment Resource Center. Kenya is entering a phase that demands new thinking, new tools, and new approaches to evaluating learner skills. We are moving towards assessments that value knowledge, application, skills demonstrations, creativity, and world-class performance. He noted that the hubs are designed to form the backbone of a more inclusive, equitable, and skills-oriented education system. And he says by combining practical evaluation, teacher capacity building, and innovation platforms, the hubs promise to transform the way learning and assessment are conducted in the country. Yeah, okay. Unlike the former 844 system where examinations were written and administered at the end of the year or for a 4-year cycle, the new senior school hubs will support continuous practical and skills-based assessment. Okay, so I can see the idea behind that. I think it's a good thing. I'm just wondering where y'all going to get teachers from into the pathways for next year.
Yeah.
Because if this is happening, which is great, and remember that NEC and TSC and ministry all work together. NEC is over here saying this is just great. Hello, TSC, according to that story that you've given us, TSC is saying, tuko na shida kidogo.
Yes, the TSC has warned that teacher shortage fueled by insufficient budgetary allocation is bound to worsen in 2026 with the rollout of senior school threatening to undermine the right to access to quality basic education. TSC's concerns are captured in a report of the Constitutional Implementation Oversight Committee of the National Assembly. The report cautions that the current teacher shortage in public schools threatens the education standards in public schools. So 7.2 billion shillings is the amount allocated to the current financial year for hiring of teacher interns who will be deployed to public junior school across the country. Hapo ndio tuko.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the Ministry of Education and the Teacher Service Commission have defended the deployment of intern teachers in junior schools under the competency-based education. The Commission said the internship program is meant to provide practical teaching experience, enhance pedagogical skills and create job opportunities for unemployed youth, but does not guarantee automatic absorption into permanent and pensionable service. There's a lot going on.
There is
a lot going on. The only question is, at what point then does quality education and right to basic education become a priority? Once you answer that, then you start putting in place mechanisms that will make that a reality. That means having proper curriculum in place and on time, having reading and teaching materials on time, having enough teachers on time, not last minute rush, because here we are seeing what TSC is saying about the intern teachers. Intern teachers have said, come January, we are downing our tools, because there is an agreement we got into that once we're done with our internship 1 year, you get to hire us. Now, question is, why is TAC all of a sudden now changing the script and saying, hapana, it is not a guarantee?
I mean, they'll tell you that it's because of money, that they don't have enough money. It usually comes back to the money. Do you see what we're talking about now?
Yes.
So when we talk about things that are going on, and we can talk about, it's great that you hired 76,000 teachers, intern teachers, but then now TSC telling you that you don't have money to make them actual teachers.
Yeah.
And the teachers themselves are saying, no, we said we'll do this for a year, but we're not doing it beyond that. How is that us now being negative? It's the situation. It's the truth on the ground. It's the truth. That's what's happening. So then why can't we fix it?
And remember, the same TAC has told you earlier that come 2026, we will have a crisis, because the teacher shortage that you're talking about, despite of the 76,000 teachers that we hired, we will still have a crazy deficit when it comes to teachers teaching these students.
Sasa wana shida.
Salam changanyiko.
Ooh. And just like that, it's 7 o'clock, guys. We continue with these conversations and try breathe in, breathe out. Don't hold it in your chest, because you do what? You die.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. The opposition has continued to denounce the government's plan to sell 15% of its shares in the telecommunications company Safaricom, vying to oppose it in order to save billions of shillings that they claim will be lost if the plan succeeds. The opposition, led by Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, say about 100 lawyers have already been involved in the matter, and that they will file a case this week to oppose the plan to sell the shares, claiming that the plan aims to benefit some leaders in the government.
Last night, ndugu kiongozi, I met lawyers from Mount Kenya South, and we agreed, 100 of them, and Wakil Ndigu Njeri was not there. 100 of them are going to file a serious petition to stop the auctioning and the sale of Safaricom Kenya, because this is the one parastatal, and we know that as they try to sell this parastatal without public participation, which is a constitutional requirement, it is simply because somebody somewhere wants a cut, and a cut, as Rigiji has explained, one share at 34 shillings originally, now at 72, and you are selling it at 34. You can imagine if you sell it at 50, mnakubaliana, how big is your share?
DCP leader Rigathi Gachagua, on his part, has accused President William Ruto of allegedly benefiting himself by using public funds.
Sasa share moja imeuzwa 34 shillings, whereas the real value is 70 to 80 shillings. So the country is losing about 250 billion. Sasa hii Safaricom inauzwa without public participation. And when we look at it in a very simple way, it's like you have a cow that is high yielder in your home. Hiyo ng'ombe ndio inatoa maziwa, watoto wanakunywa, wewe unakunywa, ingine unauza. Sasa wewe unauza hiyo ng'ombe na una ingine, ati ununue chakula ya siku hiyo. Sasa ukikula hiyo chakula, huna ng'ombe ya kukamua. So we are in a space in our country where Ruto is selling everything that is working.
And Gachagua has stressed that the united opposition will remain strong in setting strategies to deliberate the nation, accusing the president of his allies of their attempts to persuade Kalonzo to join the government.
There has been a lot of efforts by Ruto and company to Dr. Kalonzo Musyoka to his side. They have been trailing him everywhere and inviting him to join them. I want to confirm that my cousin here cannot betray the people of Kenya. Number two, when that has failed, they think that they can put a wedge between me and Kalonzo Musyoka. Let me tell the people of Kenya, the relationship between me and Kalonzo is not about leadership. It is not about politics. It's not about the presidency. It is family. Sasa watu ya familia wanaweza wachana.
And Gachagua also called on ODM members not to allow their party to be disrupted, saying that there are ongoing plans to break it.
And we want to ask ODM, musikubali chama yenu imalizwe na Ruto. We want strong parties for a strong democracy. And we can see efforts to finish ODM. And it's not good for our democracy. So we want to ask ODM members to be careful. Wasitawanywe, wabaki chama ya Wajaluo. We would like a strong ODM, a strong Wiper, a strong DCP, a strong DAP-K. It is good for our democracy. And that is what we want in this country.
And the Ministry of Health has dismissed claims that the personal medical data of Kenyans has been traded off under the new health deal between Kenya and the United States. The 5-year cooperation framework was signed on Thursday in Washington to support Kenya's priority health programs while strengthening the long-term sustainability of national health systems. The agreement will see the U.S. government invest 208 billion Kenya shillings into Kenya's health institutions in the next 5 years. In a statement, Health Cabinet Secretary Aidan Duale noted that the agreement explicitly dictates that Kenya retains sole ownership of the data and all associated intellectual property rights in the covered systems. He clarified that the agreement is designed around aggregate level data, information shared in dashboards and national reports, and does not require sharing of private information like names, ID numbers, phone contacts, addresses, or individual medical files. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
We look at the utterances of leaders who are aligned to broad-based, who were initially in ODM. We thought they stand for something. Now they've been exposed.
Because we are a third world country, we are poor. And not because we don't have resources, but we have been robbed senseless.
Look at the wasteful expenditure. Look at how large government lives. And we've said this is something that can be controlled. It happens in many other countries.
Internally, we used to stand and tell him, boss, hii kitu ni mbaya. And you'd say, now he doesn't let me tell you, you saw the other parliamentary group meeting. People went there, sat, listened, looked at him. There was no plenary, left.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
You have land, Dennis. Okay, your own land. You use your own money to build it, and then you sell it to yourself.
But we don't want foreign troops on Kenyan soil.
But surely it goes a little bit deeper. This is it.
If you find the tree is withering, then you call the person who is managing that tree. Come around.
Yeah,
Why you tell me what is
first of all, what's the problem?
Yes, what is the problem there?
How do we expect ourselves to move forward as a country?
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
SRC's mandate is constitutional. It's not an advice. It's actually something you must do.
Must do.
Like now you abandon, of course, the narrative of wheelbarrow, Mutu wa Mjengo, Mama Mboga, and all those, that rosy narrative.
Your expenditure is 3.3 trillion, and you're collecting only 2.5. Out of that 2.5, you're spending 1.8 trillion to service loans and so forth.
That the CDF kit, it's itself a symptom of corruption.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 8 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Monday morning, and I know the sun is going to be out in a minute. So if you're looking at it and the clouds are cloudy, the skies are cloudy, don't take that as what the rest of the day is going to be like. Put it in your heart and take the sunshine and let it come out of your mouth or something like that, isn't it? All right. And even as we do that, Dennis, are you telling us something or two about Airtel and where we're going with this?
Yes, Airtel Happy Hour Unlimited Fund Bundles. So there's an opportunity for you to enjoy unlimited data bundles at an affordable price. So we're talking about an hour of unlimited data bundles at 19 shillings and 3 hours at 45 shillings. How do you get this? *544# or go to your My Airtel app and buy yourself these data bundles. But that notwithstanding, if you're still not migrated to Airtel or you're not on Airtel, just walk to the nearest Airtel shop and buy yourself this SIM card. Now, what exactly does these data bundles help you with? You know, in life there is a fact that we need to be connected with the world. You know, we want to enjoy our movies. You want to follow up on these documentaries, you know, you want to follow on geopolitics and agreements that are happening between Kenya and the United States, you know? And it's really important that you be in that moment, you know. But I imagine a situation where you're following this, but halfway in, data has left you, and with that conversation that you're following has also disappeared. So you find that then you depend on Ndu Aseto the following morning to narrate to you what exactly happened, because Ndu and Aseto are already on Airtel Unlimited Fund Bundles, you know, and we are able to give you this story the following day. So fear of missing out then stops being a reality for Ndu and Aseto because we're on these bundles. You can also be part of that. So how do you do that? *544# or go to your My Airtel app and buy yourself these data bundles. Life can't get any better than that.
Absolutely, and that's the direction in which we're going, and making sure that you can keep connected whatever it is that you are doing. Let me tell you something really quickly. We're getting into the festive season, and you can see the trees are up, the lights are twinkling, and everybody's getting into that mood where that you're with friends and you're with family and that you're making things happen. Let's do this with Naivas. That 60% off of major things is what we're talking about. That as you walk into any Naivas in the country, wherever it is that you're going, let's get into the festive spirit with Naivas and all that is on offer getting into this week. So it was Black November. But in this case, it's a good thing because we're extending that just a little bit, and that you can go into the place whereby everything that you do will be at a discount up to 60% over the coming days. We're giving away iron boxes, toasters, blenders, and heaters. And the big ones, 45 vehicles, 45 motorcycles, 6 vehicles, and they're brand new, plus TVs, fridges, cookers, and more. It's so simple. Register for the loyalty card, and you get to know your winnings right on your receipt as you pay. And this festive season, take advantage of the the Lipa Pole Pole or the convenient buy now, pay later option. And you can also use Faraja on M-Pesa for 0 interest installments. The big guy is coming in, and this is the Naivas legendary Kikwetu Mbuzi. What you need to do is keep it locked into the Spice Drive with CEO every evening and find out how you can win more with Naivas, because Naivas saves you money. Good?
Good.
Gooder.
Goodest.
All right. So we're getting into a conversation this morning, and even as we do, let me let you know what we'll be talking. I let you know earlier what we will be discussing. 2 guests join us in the studio this morning. Reverend Dr. Elias Otieno Agola is the chairman of the National Council of Churches of Kenya. He joins us this morning. Good morning, Reverend Agola.
Good morning, Ndu.
How are you doing?
Very good.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
And also, Bishop Tony Kiama is the lead pastor at the KAG River of God Church. He's here as well as us this morning. Good morning.
Ndu, how are you doing?
Very well. This is a rarity because we know that Monday is a pastor's day off, isn't it? Mostly across board.
On paper.
On paper. But you've done us a solid by coming in this morning to discuss what is a really pertinent issue.
So you have disrupted our Monday.
I've disrupted your Monday. Yeah. Call us disruptors. That's what we do in this room. Because these issues are pertinent for us to discuss this morning. So we're going to go ahead and do that today. Before we do, Dennis is going to share today's proverb. We'd love to get your interpretation of it.
Today's proverb is basically from the continent, right? So it is it's among many proverbs that have been given by different scholars in the continent. And this says, examine what is said, not who is speaking. Examine what is said and not who is speaking. Reverend Agola, how would you interpret that?
Examine what is said, not who is speaking. Tough to begin with me, but yes, let me give it a trial. Examine what is said and not who is speaking simply means that it's not only a particular category of people that are expected to say something that can make sense. It's a matter of you listening and paying attention to what is being said and seeing whether it makes sense regardless of who is saying it. It may be an older person to a younger person, or a younger person to an older person. But whatever is said is what should be interrogated. Thank you.
Bishop, how would you interpret it?
Good, how are you?
Salama sana.
Good. I think just simply focus on the truth, not the source. Yeah.
Focus on the truth,
Focus
and
on
not
the
the
truth,
source.
not the source.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well said.
Very well said. So last week, it was called the most scathing, the most serious, the most erstwhile calling out of the government of the day by the clergy in recent times, the most serious one, the one with the most depth and the most degree, where it was basically said, you're failing this nation, president and government, and that you can do better. We must do better. And then it went on, and this is, of course, from a concert of clergy, and then it went on later to even break it down into sectors and say, in the economy, in the health sector, in education, amongst the young people, in politics, in elections, we're looking at a very, very sad situation, essentially, and said, you know what, we do better or we do better. That was the way in which it was. It was said it was called to be the most serious one, where the president was basically told, you know, shape up, or ship out. Is that where we are? Let's start with you, Reverend Kiama.
I think for me, I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Give me your hand, my brother.
Oh, thank you.
Finally.
Yeah.
Because the young people hit the streets and said, after government, we are coming for church. Because the young people had already seen, man, things are going south. And the church was in bed with government. And so for me, I'm very excited that the church has come to a point where they've realized We were scammed. Yeah, this was a fox in sheepskin. Yeah, because the government of the day today is in office because it was endorsed by the church in Kenya. Yeah, so they were scammed, or we were scammed. Niko hapo ndani. We were scammed. And when the church finally realizes, just a minute, isi kondo, this is a fox. Me, I'm like, Bwana asifiwe sana.
Finally.
Okay.
So beyond a statement, and we'll come back to you in a minute, Reverend Kema, beyond a statement, what does it actually mean? Does it mean that everybody, even after that statement, because like again, we said there's a concert of the clergy from different denominations coming together to say, Nana, this cannot continue anymore. So beyond the statement, what happens after that? There can be a calling out. You can call me out all day, but if I decide I'm not going to listen, but are we saying that there must be concerted, compounded effort where you continue to talk about the things that we see that may be going wrong? What happened after Thursday?
Kenya has different stakeholders, and the issues that are being addressed must be addressed by all these stakeholders: the government, the older generations, the church and the other institutions, and the young people, who constitute over 70% of the Kenyans. And so these are people who are not supposed to let decisions be made for them in their generation by the less than 30%. Of course, in governance, we've had the percentages of 20-80, but here we are not calling for the 20% to make decisions for the over 70%. In our statement, we were very clear that the issues affecting Kenyans are mistakes that have been made systemically by those in authority. Some of them in the church, others are in government, and others are in these other categories that I mentioned. And so beyond the statement, we are saying this was an agenda for discussion to shape Kenya going forward.
Reverend Kema, we find ourselves in a situation where, for, like you said, the youth said after the government to come for the church, right? And finally, the church has spoken, but one would ask the question, is it a little bit too late? And do Kenyans, how does the church win back Kenyans? Because the blame has been that the church put us in this position.
It's true. First of all, the church has no business. In fact, let me put it this way. The priest has no business eating at the king's table. It's as simple as that. But when you find the priest is eating at the king's table, you see all these clergy headed to State House. They have no business being in State House. One of the fundamental functions of a priest is to hold the king accountable. You know, you have the story of the young, the old prophet and the young prophet. And God was very categorical. He told the young prophet to do not take water. If they give you water, don't take water. Don't take bread. You know, if they give you a donkey, don't take it. And don't even go the same route you came. Why? Because if you do, you shall be compromised. So the truth is, by the time the young people are coming and saying, enough is enough, when we are done with government, we are coming for the church, it's because the church had been compromised. But you know what? There's always a second chance. And this is the second chance for the Church of Jesus Christ in Kenya, where the church has come to a place where we have realized that, you know what, this man is not our friend. He's a king. Ours is to hold him accountable. Things have gone south and we were here. But you know what? It's not too late. There is always room for us to come back and reclaim that particular position. And I pray that we shall be firm. Number one, that the politicians will have no opportunity to speak in churches anymore. They will not use the church as their campaign platform. Muende mkomboe stadiums, huko ndio mtaenda kuhubiri vitu zenyu huko na siasa. No more. They will not defile the Church of Jesus Christ again. Now we make it very firm. And that's my prayer. The Archbishop of the Anglican Church made it very clear that there is no more room for politicians. If they come to church, even if it's a head of state, ni mshirika kama ule mwingine. Wakienda kwa msikiti hakunaga mdeadly kuliko mwingine. Kila mtu ni mshirika. So hata kanisani ni hivyo. Na hata hiyo pesa yenyu hakuna kusimama kusema ati tumewaletea pesa. Weka kwa offering kama ule mtu mwingine.
Put it in the basket, dance to the front like everybody else.
Know?
Okay.
There are no sacred cows now. Sasa tu full sleeves na tuende binguni mpendwa. Na tuhubiri ukweli. 300 billion ilipotea. So I think kwanza tuanzia hapo. Kanisa isimame, NCCK isimame na iseme, we want that 300 billion. All money leaves a trail. So NCCK kwanza muanze na kusema hiyo pesa kwanza irudishwe. Ilikuwa deni na imeibiwa. So let's first, let's draw battle lines.
Yeah, Dr. So we've heard the way Bishop has spoken, and one asked the question, bearing in mind that the church was central in this government being formed, right? It endorsed this government. And with everything that has happened in the country today, is it right for Kenyans to say that the church as well takes responsibility for everything that the government endorsed has done to the people of Kenya? Or when does the church and the government separate?
Yeah, that's a very pertinent question. I think we are supposed to be contextual in our approach to all these issues and say that yes, something happened, and yes, something is also happening, and yes, something is also anticipated to happen. And thinking and conversing around that context will bring us to a conclusion that can take us forward and help us understand that the mistakes that were made then should not be repeated now and in future. And that is why our focus as NCCK is that after admitting that some things went wrong, and after seeing what is happening now, we are setting the agenda for the future and asking ourselves, what can we do better? What can we say louder? And what can we engage in a more informed way so that the country is salvaged and the agenda for the country is discussed in a more sober way, so that we don't use our emotions to cascade, we don't use our emotions to make decisions that are emotional, but come to a table where we discuss issues, cost of living, failure in health sector, issues around education, issues around the involvement of the youth, and asking the youths to take their position and ensure that they are involved in issues of governance.
It's interesting, Dr. Gola, because the statement was,
yes,
and I quote, youth should rise up against what is called a failed administration. What do you mean exactly by that? When you say youth should rise up, what should they do? Talk in their barasas, come out into the streets? What should happen?
We were very categorical.
Yes.
And we exactly mean that. We mean that we are challenging our youth. Once they rose up in 2024 and they identified some of these issues, it is not identifying and not designing how you are supposed to move forward. And it is not identifying and remaining silent. It is rising up to the end and taking their rightful positions and saying, we have identified that which is ailing this country, and this is our design.
What does that look like, Reverend Kiama? Because I think it confounds us a little bit sometimes. When we say rise up and take your position, okay, there were protests that ended in death, in kidnappings. There are some people who disappeared during those protests. We still don't know where they are. Mothers and fathers are still crying about, the loss of their children. And so when we say rise up and take your position, what does that mean? Go vie for politics? Go vie for positions? Have conversations in spaces where people are more woke, as it were? What?
I think for me, and let me also speak for, I don't speak on behalf of the church. It's way above my pay grade. But I am a believer and I am a clergy in this country. And in my opinion, I feel that this statement was bold. And that's why we are seated here today. And I want to say to my brother, kudos for that statement. But it's also important to say that we should give leadership as a church. When we tell the young people to rise up, we are shifting, focus. We are giving the responsibility back to them. We are like, so when you tell them to rise up, so you'll be at the back now, just watching as them, they are raising the dust for change. I think it is time for the clergy, for the Church of Jesus Christ to take the reins of what they are doing and not tell the youth, it's time for you to, let the church take leadership. First of all, say, we want to know where those young people are, the ones who got lost. Yeah. When the young people were on the street, the church should have been there. We saw in the past, men who said enough is enough during Moi's reign. The Njoyas, the Okulus, the people who stood up as clergy. And now the youth are wondering, where are those men or the caliber of those men who would stand up to government and say, you know what, we will hold you accountable. And I remember recently saying, you know what, one of the things that is messing us in terms of the economy in this country is not that we don't have money. We are in debt till our neck. Now we are in the place where, we borrow 600 billion. It's mind-boggling, and then 300 billion cannot be accounted for. And this, it's not the journalists who came up with. It's the government arm. The Auditor General is the one who came and said, hey, wajama, bilioni 300 imepotea. The president didn't say anything. Parliament is not in a crisis. Hey, hii pesa imeenda wapi? When you lose your phone, bana, you're frantic. You're looking for it. They didn't do anything. Kanisa yetu ya Yesu hapa Kenya, sioni ni kama kuna mtu yoyote anababaika. And let me tell you something. The reason why people don't fight or are not as driven is two things. Number one, either you're a beneficiary or you're a coward. Those are the two reasons why people don't want to speak. Either you're a beneficiary or you're a... So if 300 billion, first of all, to kanisa isimame iseme, these young people, the government is broke. We are in debt till our great-grandchildren. Let's stand and call issues as they are. So even as we are saying the youth should arise, the clergy should first of all put its foot down and say, hii pesa irudishwe, jua iko nje ya Kenya, irudishwe na irudishwe leo.
Yeah.
Irudishwe na irudishwe leo.
Yeah.
Watu walikufa. We need to hold the people accountable. Bring them to book. There's no absence of law in this country. It's just that we don't have the goodwill to implement that law. Sure. Maze, we are operating like the church doesn't exist. The church in this country exists. It does exist. Look at what is happening in America. Uko Minnesota. Majority of those guys who are doing those jinga things, stealing from the American government, hiyo pesa iko hapa Kilimani. Kwani hakuna serikali kwa hii country? unless hiyo pesa ilikuja kwa serikali. People in government wanajua mali hiyo pesa iko Kilimani, hiyo $1 billion wanajua mali iko, iliingilia wapi na hawakuona. Unataka kuniambia hii gava haijui hiyo pesa iko huku ama mali iko?
So they were just a
beneficiary
or
a coward. Na mimi naweza ambia Trump, mzae kama uchukue hiyo do tuone kam na nataka kuambia hao watu wako kwa government leo, a day is coming na tutakuja kuchukua hiyo chapa yetu mmechukua. Nyinyi kuleni tu, but a day is coming and we'll come for it. Na ndio musema hivyo wanadhani jokes. One day, because money leaves a paper trail.
It does.
If pesa yote mnaimba 300 billions, do how many billions, we will come for it. And I'm telling you, if it will only be the 2 slices of bread left in your fridge, we'll come for it. Whether it is now, or it is your children or your great-grandchildren's time, but we will come for it. Hakuna vile unaweza kula pesa ya hii country. Pesa tumelipia tax. Jueni mdeadly. Tutaona nani mdeadly. There will come a king who knew not Joseph. And that day is coming. Easy. Mtarudisha. Bwana asifiwe. Mark my words.
Sante. Well, he speaks louder than me. And he has a point that we still need to ask these questions, which we continue to ask. Where are these young people who got lost? Where did they go? Who killed them? And what is happening around all that? That question is still there. We cannot say that we have been quiet. We cannot ask. Even as we issue statements, we also talk about those young people. And we are concerned about them. And any injustice, malpractice, bad governance, we still call them out. However, I think going forward, we need to handle the situations as they come and concentrate on what it is that we can do as a country to move forward. Those that are doing all that my brother has said have to be brought to book, and we need to continue adding our voices to that. And when we say the church, I believe we are saying it is us who are here.
All of us.
And we are saying it is those that follow the church. And I would not want just to say the church. I would say religious institutions. Because when you only single down to the church, it therefore means the other religions are left.
It's interesting that you say that, because when we see them over the weekend, when they're giving and doling out monies, they're doing it in church.
Yeah, we cannot say.
When they come and they want to have politics or these sessions, just this weekend was another example, when during a funeral we're having as though it's a political rally. When there is a wedding, same thing. When there's a church service going on, and it's interesting because where they stand, the camera captures the set of clergy sitting behind these individuals, and we see
yes, that is right.
We see that where
right.
they sit there and allow this to happen. And one must ask the question that paints a picture. It does. Imagery is very powerful. It paints a picture that this is being condoned.
We cannot deny that, because it is a reality. But it is not the only reality. We also need to point these fingers at ourselves. Ourselves here is the Fourth Estate. And I'm not afraid of saying that. Is that the only thing that happened in that church that day? Is it the only thing that needed to be highlighted? Was there a sermon that was preached in that church? What was the content, or was it not something that Kenyans should know about? I think we need also to be fair. Much as we agree that that happens, and we can never deny that. Remember in my statement, which was the council statement, we reiterated what he started with, that we are calling upon our clergy not to allow politicians to politic in the church. When they come, let them be treated as worshippers. When they give, let them be, give their offering as any other person would do. Amen. That is still our statement. We have never changed, and I've come here severally and talked about the same thing. So we are not denying that these people come. We are not denying that they make those funny statements. We do not deny that. But what are we also saying? We are also saying, look at that good thing that also happens in that congregation that day, and highlight it also. It may change the narrative of the country. It may speak to the country in a better way and say that even though some bad things are happening, we also have one good thing.
Reverend, one would ask a question.
What if a minister who was preaching that day mentioned something against what was happening and it is not covered? How will people know that there is another flip of the chart? How will people know that there is another side of the coin?
Reverend, one asks the question, we get where you're coming from in terms of there is the other side, but the church has spoken, has given its direction that no politician will be granted access to speak in church, regardless of whether they are saying right or wrong. Because at that point, you have created a level playing ground for everyone. If a politician wants to speak, let them come to church, get outside, hire a ground, and address everyone, the congregation outside, away from the church. At the point when the religious institutions would accept that one would come and say a positive thing and we grant that, don't you think you create a lacuna, you create an open ground for people to continue abusing the religious institutions? Because one would ask the question, the church has always talked, but you're not seeing the walking. Because even after giving the statement and saying that political statements not to be given in church, that was Thursday. We see the same on Sunday.
Yeah.
One asks the question, is it just the walk and not
the talk?
It's just the talk, not the walk.
Not the walk, yeah. You are right to think in that direction, but I would take it back to you and ask you, if you have given some rules in your home, and there is one in that home that is not following those rules, does it mean the rules are not there? Does it mean that you have to prefect them so that you know who has followed and who has not? We still continue to say this because it's not the first time we have said it. We continue to say it, and it remains our statement that politicians are also worshippers. You cannot stop them from coming to church. You are not supposed to. But when they come, all pastors, all church elders, all religious leaders in the religious governance have to understand that once you give or you release a podium to a politician, you may not take back the words that they have said. So the very first thing that we instruct, warn, or advise our pastors not to do is to do what? Is
To give
not
them
to
first
allow
words.
them to do this. However, you will always be having a black sheep. You can be sure they will be there. If you have prepared a green gram for a meal, you will realize that kuna moja inaitwa nini? In my language, I would call it tama. Tama means the one that will never get cooked, whether you do what. And they are there.
Okay.
It is regrettable. We are not celebrating that. We condemn it by all the terms. You remember what happened just across in Kariobangi North, where children were tear-gassed just because a politician was inside the church. Unfortunate, but it happens, and we do not celebrate that.
I think
Now
it's
back to
unfortunate, yes.
what you asked. Are we just leaving the youth to stay and ask them occupy, ask them get to your space. We are saying we are not missing words. We are saying that the youth should understand the way they need to get into these spaces.
Which is what?
Which is register massively as voters. That is one. And this calls for them not to have a voter apathy or not to listen to some discouraging statements from the politicians or analysis by other people. Because I know some people said, oh, there is some, why do you take our eyelids? What are you going to do with them? Iris. What are you going to do with them? And so on and so forth. I think let's cross the bridge when we reach there. And it may be a statement that is causing the young people not to register. But for us as a church, we call them to register massively as voters. And then we are also calling them that they join these political parties or they field youth candidates in all elective positions. Because time is coming. And if you are not prepared, kama hujajipanga utapangwa. If they want to take over the governance in this country, they have to be willing to get into the space.
So maybe not even just take over, but to inject new life into the politics of the day, because I reckon that taking over might be, it's not necessarily something that might happen.
I had not finished my statement, so taking over was not the only thing I was to say. But thank you for adding that. That is not just a matter of taking over. It is also a matter of injecting the newness that you'd want to see in governance. And also participate. During this time, we need them to participate in civic education, participate in electoral monitoring, because taking the voter's card and not going to vote is not changing anything. Going to vote and not monitoring how that is done is not doing anything, because this is where the rigging takes place. The youth have a way of getting engaged so that they inject that new life that is required in the Kenyan governance system.
Okay. I want to come to you, Reverend Kama, because now as we look at, moving forward, it seems as though we've courted, society may have courted bad behavior, and it's not just from governance. And that across board, bad behavior has been accepted. You can almost rudimentarily call it just bad manners over time, and it seeped through society, whether it is at the citizens' point, whether it's in governance, whether it's going into parliament, across board. This morning we talked about the way the city looks and how people comport themselves in the city across board. So how do you get rid of it? And I often give the example of when there's a cancer in someone's body, the surgeon doesn't say, oh, maybe we can talk to the cancer and see if it'll go away tomorrow. No, you cut it out and then you deal with treatment.
I totally agree. I think it's important for us to, and I want to say, NCCK, I am kudos. But we must bite. We must bite. We must come to a place where some of these pastors, we must be vigilant. Where if this pastor invites a politician into the church and they make some of these derogatory, for example, that Kariobangi church, Nani, it is part of your denomination.
Ni yetu hata wewe.
Ni sawa, ni sisi tuko ndani. And I want to say this. That was not a church service. That was a political rally. That was not a church service. No, there was no resemblance of a church service there. Tusidanganyane. That was a political rally. So that pastor should be dealt with squarely by the denomination that they serve. They should be held accountable. Why would they allow that to happen in that church? And you can see where it cascaded to. And so when we get to a point where then the church or some of these organizations, parachurch organizations, they have the capacity to bite. It will stop. Let me give you an example. The reason why people don't jump lights at Kenyatta Avenue is because the police are there. But easy lights zingine huku, watu jump like they don't exist. You get what I'm saying? The reason why people, and there's a lot of bad manners in our country, overlapping. Mazi, you overlap like wewe ndio unaenda binguni, sisi wengine hatuna haraka. Yeah. But you see, slowly by slowly, we are getting to a place where some of these politicians, when they come with their blaring Christmas lights, and they are trying to push people aside. The citizens have come to a place where they say, you know what, no more nonsense. Yeah, you can take that nonsense back to your village, but not here. Pia sisi kuna mahali tunaenda. Kwanza huko ni wapi mnaenda? Unaharakisha ukatuibie. Hakuna, stay in line. So I think we are coming of age. And the good thing about hitting rock bottom is there's nowhere else to go.
There's no basement.
Yeah. Exactly. Is backup. And that's where Kenya is. We have come to a place where the young people have said enough is enough. The church now has come to a place where it has said enough is enough. The space is narrowing. Yeah. And I think it's the politicians to realize, Allah, the ground is shifting. Mambo ya changeanga. It's not, business as usual. Things will change. And I pray that they will change fast in church, where we will hold each other accountable. Number one, we make sure that the priests will no longer dine at the king's table, because when you do, you are compromised. So first of all, we declare today, no more state house. Na ukienda, you're cut off. Unaenda huko kufanya nini? What you want to say, write him a letter. Mwandikie barua, unaenda huko ndio ufanye nini? It is in scripture. The priest has no business dining on the king's table. Mnaenda huko kufanya nini? Mnaenda huko mnadungwa ya macho, ndio mnaanza kuita wale wengine antichrist. Hizo ndio gani sasa? Sincerely speaking. And I think it is time now for us to follow our sleeves and rear and say, you know what, enough is enough. We are calling it as it is, and no more nonsense. And even cleaning within ourselves, we clean house, the church itself, leave alone politics, because people who live in glass houses don't throw stones. Ndu ile ujinga iko kwa kanisa, it can drown a whale. Ni huyo pasi anauza mikate kwa kanisa, hizo sasa ndio gani? Mwingine anachoma nyama ndani ya church, hizo ni nonsense.
It's giving society, It's giving society an example and
exactly.
An eye into what.
Sasa ati unachoma nyama ndani ya kanisa. Wewe si pastor. Wewe ni hoka. Hizi ndio gani? Wewe ni pasi alafu uko na girlfriend. Wewe ni pasi na wewe ni mlevi. Kidogo umetinga madem ball huku. Hizo ndio church gani? Hizi si kanisa bana. Lakini pia nyinyi washirika muache kutubeba ufala. How can you go to a church na unajua pasi ndio huyo anauza mamikate, mnauziwa makaratasi, dhao, na bado mnaenda? Hizo ndio gani? It portrays. So I think even before we go to point fingers at government, let us first of all clean house. Sisi wenyewe. To clean house. And because the Lord has lifted you to a place of authority, my brother, and I respect you for that, I think it is important for you to speak into these issues. Because, the favor of God is upon you. And all authority on heaven and earth is ordained of God. Because mimi naweza simama hapa ni piga makelele until I'm blue in the face. Na it won't get to the headlines. You make one statement, it's in the headline. It means that the Lord has given you that favor and the ability to turn things around. If you spoke against some of these churches, you nonsense itaisha. And when you call out some of these pastors who are bringing in politicians to defile the altar, leave alone just even addressing those other issues. Just the fact that they are defiling the altar of the Lord Jesus Christ. If you bite, it will stop. Until we deal with it. We must, and we should.
Bishop, you speak in terms of the church needs to clean itself and address the problems to bedeviling it. I hear you. While at that as well, we might sit and point fingers at politicians, the church, but the congregates themselves as well need to clean up, because we speak in terms of Kenyans have gone out, they want change. Kenyans have gone out, they've called out the government, and they've said after government, we're coming for the church.
Yes.
But you pause and look at the very same Kenyans again, who, whenever a politician is out here doling out, bribing, they're the ones taking it. You look at a politician needing goons to go out there and fight the opponent. It is the very same Kenyans who said we're coming for the church, who are again allowing themselves
to be used.
So it then speaks in terms of the church leading, cleaning up itself, leading Kenyans, and leading even government in terms of this is the right way to go. So it speaks in terms of a 360 cleanup of the society that is Kenya for us to end up in Canaan or the promised land that we all want to go through. You reckon?
Sure. Yeah, that is true, and I share in the frustrations of the bishop. At the same time, I share in the wisdom that you have used to ask ourselves to say, where does it all begin? Who is doing it? Who is this that is messing up? It must have started from one particular person, and the 360 turnaround must also start from somewhere. And that is why I still hold that, yes, all those that are happening within us, but we need to ask ourselves, have we been talking? And have we been doing? I think that is the question. And what have we been doing? What have we been saying? And is what we are doing resonating with what we have been saying? And how can we ensure that that voice of reason continues to be amplified? We have an opportunity as Kenyans, all of us, to think about our country and to ask ourselves, how do we move step by step, not as one person and not as a group of people, but all of us are as Kenyans, although we have to be coordinated so that we do things. The church, as you have rightly said, needs to clean itself. And we are here making this becoming a reality by speaking sense to our colleagues and asking them to use the scriptures rightly without misinterpreting scripture. Because everybody who says whatever they say and do whatever they do, most of them use scriptures and they misinterpret the scriptures. And those who have gone to theological institutions, we know how to interpret the scriptures the right way. And that's why you will not find that in other established churches. But we have people who woke up one day and said, I am called by God, and then they begin to draw some followers. And I am happy that you called out on our congregants and told them that you should not be following such people. The government formed a task force, if you remember, and the task force was to come up with regulations. But we also know that there are some political interferences, so that this does not find itself in practice. And we have already endorsed that. As NCCK, we said what was said was the correct thing. There must be a regulatory body. There must be a form that we follow. There must be some law that governs this, so that we are not treated like we are being treated now. We are being treated as societies. But here we are religious institutions, and whatever needs to be followed should be there. Now, some people are coming against this because it is going to put some order, it is going to put some restrictions, and this law is going to help us to operate as institutions would.
Okay.
Yes.
Reverend Kim, I want to come to you because how radical does this need to be? And when you use the word radical, obviously it's because something has gone really wrong. That it has gone, almost down the drain, irreversibly wrong. And so radical surgery is what needs to happen. Headline today is that while we were watching over the last 5 years, when the previous administration told Kenyans that 2 billion shillings a day is lost towards corruption, while we were watching, another billion has been added to that. And now, if this report is to be believed, 3 billion shillings daily. Daily means every day, right?
Yes.
Okay. 3 billion shillings daily is lost to corruption. Every day, every single day. Now, I hazard a guess that it is not one person, because corruption is not money that disappeared. It is taken. It's money that is taken.
Yes.
Somebody steals the money.
Yes.
But we often don't want to say it. We say it is misappropriated. It is mismanaged. We use all these fancy words. It's stolen. It's taken by someone.
Waizi.
Right. But
Wanyanganyi.
Exactly. The Auditor General tells us about this all the time while we watched. It was bad when it was 2 billion. It's diabolical now that it's 3. Who knows what it's going to be next? If this radical thing doesn't happen, does it need to happen like that?
I want to say this, that church is a moral fabric of our society. And I am convinced, beyond reasonable doubt, that the day we clean up church, we will clean up the country. Because a lot of this money and corruption is actually endorsed in church. Because these thugs, because that's what they are, Maguhundi, we see them making statements in church on Sunday morning. They're the ones who are coming and saying, I'm going to give you 100 billion. Wamenunulia pasta gari. Tuko na harambe ya kujenga church. Nani alisema? Who said that God needs stolen money to build his church? Who said? Until the day we curb the appetite for the pastor, then this church, this country, because I want to tell you, the church is an integral part of this country. And I want to dare this. The day every minister of the gospel in this country we do a forensic audit. Kila mchungaji, uko na gari, explain how you got this. Explain how you bought this house in Karen. Explain how you got this. The day we are able to hold accountable every pastor in this country, then we will have the capacity to hold every politician, to bring every politician to book. Because these thugs are protected by church. And that is why they are on first name basis and dial with the pastors. The day we hold them accountable, and we audit every minister of the gospel, because hawa naiba pesa ya watu. Pastor ni shida zaidi ya naiba za Mungu. Let us hold each other accountable. Let us audit each other. Tuulizane, mtu wangu hii gari ulitoa wapi? Tuulizane tu ukweli. Let us explain. When the day we are able to hold each other accountable as a church, then we will have the capacity to hold this country accountable. Because huwezi enda kupanguza mtu mwingine mavi na wewe umejichafua. Wapendwa, that day is coming. See story, that day is coming. And we will start calling out these thugs in church. We see, you tell people to tithe, na wewe mwenyewe hata utaithigi. Tunasema watu watoe pesa tujenge, wewe kwanza unakula hiyo pesa. Badala ya ujenge kanisa, and let me say this. Some of these churches where money has been misappropriated by the pastor, a day will come where we will not just hold the pastor accountable, even the deacons, the elders in that church, mutatuambia hiyo pesa ilibiwa kama mmelala wapi. Because there are two things. Either you are a beneficiary or you are a coward.
And
but
it runs
both
through.
we will deal with.
It runs through.
Yeah.
And these are the conversations
in Jesus'
that we
name.
have. Amen.
And that day is coming, though.
It runs through. Whether we're looking at it at the church level, where they're looking at it in government, it's a similar thread. Yeah. And these are some of the things that we talk about. As uncomfortable as they are, it's necessary that we do, because it's a reality in our present day. And we continue. It's not just an hour, but it has to be for days to come. But we want to thank you for being here for this hour. Reverend Dr. Elias Otieno Agola is the chairman of the National Council of Churches of Kenya. Bishop Tony Kiama is the lead pastor at the KG River of God Church. Thank you both.
Can I say a short prayer for Kenya? Because when Kenya prospers, we prosper. Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, we are in a situation now that only you can save this country. Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, may you save us. May you save us, Almighty God. Save us from thugs, because we have been robbed senseless. Jehovah, I pray that you will forgive us for the blood, innocent blood that has been shed over this country. Father, have mercy on us. Have mercy on us. Have mercy on us. Because there are widows and orphans who are suffering and dying with no medication in this country, oh Lord. Come through in our country. Father, you are still God over all. Jehovah, save us. And we dedicate this country into their hands. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's 2 minutes past 8.
World 94.4 Spice FM.
Morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Lea Obaga. A post-mortem report on the brutal murder of a 12-year-old grade 7 pupil whose body was discovered dumped in KAA Estate on Saturday morning, 2 days after she was reported missing, will be done today at Nairobi Funeral Home. The victim, identified as Patience Mumbe, was found with her hands tied behind her back using a black shoelace. According to investigators, the body bore signs of assault, including bleeding on her face and private parts, indicating she had been subjected to a violent attack. Her father, George Manthi, said the family had been searching the Pipeline Amazon area desperately since Thursday evening when the girl went missing while playing with her siblings. Her mother reported the disappearance at Kware police station, prompting a search effort that lasted through the weekend, only for her to finally receive the news of her missing daughter through social media.
Kitu naweza sema mwenyewe, huyo mtoto wangu vile nimemwona ameteswa sana, na mimi ningetaka tu haki ifanyike kwake tu. Tumekuja tumethibitisha, tumepata kweli mwili ni hiyo ya mtoto.
Zaambia polisi tu wafuatilie hiyo maneno, at least haki ya mtoto wetu ipatikane.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has warned that rising social ills in the country are closely linked to the growing trend of parents relinquishing their responsibility to raise and guide their children. Speaking in Kitengela, Murkomen said many families have increasingly outsourced parenting to teachers, pastors, nannies and digital platforms, leaving children without the moral grounding needed to navigate modern society.
The challenges we are having today, ndio tamalizia challenges tuko nayo saa hizi: drugs, alcohol, pornography, mambo ya goons, mambo ya hii tabia zote, and we are growing a generation that are very defiant because wanareiziwa na internet na simu, wanapata access to information all over the world.
Murkomen called on parents to reclaim their central role in shaping character, emphasizing the need to cultivate a culture of prayer, family values, and consistent guidance at home.
Bangi, wanaenda mambo ingine, and then we are losing so many young people who are either suicide or overdose of drugs because nobody has been focusing on training what they are doing and so forth. Let us continue tracking our kids. Looking their progress, talking to them, asking how they are doing. Tusisahau tuseme ni mtu mkubwa ameenda huko. This is not the generation some of us grew up.
26 suspects accused of orchestrating a sophisticated scheme to illegally obtain government identification documents, including national ID cards, passports, birth certificates, and alien registration cards, are expected in court today. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations say the suspects colluded to circumvent official procedures, exploiting their access to sensitive systems to unlawfully register and process critical identity documents. Among the seized materials were field and blank ID application forms, fingerprint capture equipment, birth and death certificates, passports, official stamps and other registration instruments. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people, and we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing policy of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, stagi kuongea. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, coming in at 8 minutes after 8 o'clock, and our conversations continue this morning. Welcome back. I see a lot of you out there. You're killing it. You're doing it. You're crushing your goals and you're making moves. But be honest with yourself for a second. Do you ever have that moment when that internal voice says to you, everyone has a plan, but me, I really need to get my act together? And you're having a meeting with yourself and you're saying, okay, guys, what exactly are we doing? That feeling of needing to get your future locked down is real. But listen, getting a plan doesn't have to be an intimidating or elitist process. That's why I'm talking about ICEA Lion. They're cutting through the noise and making financial planning relatable. Whether you're just starting out or looking to secure a comfortable retirement, they have plans to help you build wealth, protect your assets, and prosper with retirement security. Stop worrying about the future and start planning for it. Get the easy personal plan that works for you. The question is, what's your plan? You can find out more about this with www.icealion.co.ke. And when you're done with that, you can make sure that as you're getting into the holiday season, you have all that you need to do to ensure that your bundles are in place.
Yes, and you need to plan and ensure that you have yourself a bundle that is out here in ensuring that you're able to do everything smoothly and in an easy way. So here we talk about the Airtel Happy Hour Unlimited Fun Bundle that allows you to enjoy affordable data. So we're talking about 19 shillings for 1 hour. 45 shillings for 3 hours, you know. And how do you get this star 544 hash, or go to your My Airtel app, or just buy the Airtel SIM card from your closest and nearest Airtel shop where you get to buy this data bundle. Now, so why are we talking about this? We're talking about fear of missing out. You know, during this festive season, a lot of people are communicating with their loved ones who are outside the country, you know. There are those who are actually also just graduating, you know, and some of these graduation ceremonies are followed on the internet because they're being streamed. So you want to be part of that. But without a data bundle that allows you to do that, you will be missing out on that. So the fear of missing out is real. But Airtel is telling you we can deal with that and make that something of the past. So what is your story? What is your former moment that you want to share with us? Talk to us on our social media pages, and our social media person, that is Flavier today, will get in touch with you and pick that story that touches SpiceFM best, and we will give you 3,000 Kenya shillings worth of airtime from Airtel.
Fantastico. Yolanda met Mr. and Mrs. Claus on Friday. Yes, she did. And if you thought that they were joking, they're not. Because you can feast, shop, and jingle at Sarit this festive season. From all the way started on the 28th of November, goes well towards the 24th of December. That's Christmas Eve. Enjoy daily festive activities, including meet and greet with Mr. and Mrs. Santa, photo moments with the elves at the Christmas decorations, fun appearances by Rudolph, who, by the way, watches the Situation Room, surprise encounters with the Grinch, and festive choral performances. You can spin the wheel for instant prizes and earn points as you shop with your Sarit Loyalty app. You can shop unique African gifts at the Masai Market every Wednesday and Thursday. Experience festive cheer and magical moments all season long, only at Sarit. So you want to head on down to Sarit. It's going to be good fun. So as we get into the festive season, that's what we're talking about, and that's how we are going to get it done. We get into a conversation this hour, and we're going through the country and of course into the rest of the region, and we're going to do that. Democracy is on trial, as it were, as what we're being told. Martha Karua is the party leader of the People's Liberation Party, and she joins us in the hot seat this morning. Martha, good morning.
Morning, dude.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah. It's been some time, and it's been busy.
I'm being told that I'm back too soon.
Why?
I was here in October.
That's 2 months ago.
Yeah.
But as we know, in the way the world flips, that things happen. A day is like daily. 1,000 days, and 1,000 days is like a day.
You're quite right.
Right. Yeah. And so things keep spinning on their head, and some of those we'll get into today. Okay. Let's start it off with Dennis, who wants to give you today's proverb.
So, proverb today comes from the continent, right? And it says, examine what is said, not who is speaking.
Again?
Examine what is said, not who is speaking. How will you interpret that?
Okay. I think the closest to that is don't shoot the messenger. Okay? So listen to the message. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. It really is that in life. People look at who.
Who.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Not what.
Very true.
Yeah.
True.
And you know, I think we can take a moment, even as we're talking about serious things, to say that whoever your designer is doing a fantastic job and has you looking fantastic.
Gotta give them the
this
flowers.
morning. My goodness. They're doing some good work there. So you look great, Martha.
You too, thanks.
As we get into this conversation, is democracy on trial in East Africa? We're coming off of October. Soon after, many things happened. Tundu Lissu still behind bars. Kizza Besigye still behind bars.
1 year later.
1 year later. Actually, a year later, just before Christmas last year, still behind bars. Tanzanians say that tomorrow is Super Tuesday, essentially, and that they're going to go back in protest. President Samia Suluhu taking a beating from the international community, but then also from within, it would appear. And folks saying that the same, if not worse, may happen in Kenya. People in Kenya talking about the possibility of things actually going south in the next 1 year. Uganda's going to the polls again. The likelihood of President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni coming back as president is high. Even at 83, the possibility of that is going to happen.
That is his age.
Okay.
It could be more.
And we're saying that the democratic space seems to be shrinking in the East Africa region. Is this true?
It is more than true. And those three countries were joined at the hip. And therefore, if you see your neighbor's house on fire, know that it could spread to yours. There was a mass murder or mass massacre in Tanzania during the general elections on 29th of October and ongoing. And there's been a purge which is ongoing that, according to sources, have seen people with gunshot wounds in hospitals taken away, never to be seen again. After the mass murder, bodies disappeared, including those of Kenyans who are still looking for their loved ones. And reports that they were being shot even inside their houses. It sounded familiar. If you remember the Azimio demonstrations in 2023, you can remember that in Kisumu, it was reported in Nyalenda that the police went, and we saw the images on social media, breaking doors and beating people up in the night. And among those who were killed were 2 brothers. You remember in the Mathare, Kibera, other low-income areas, informal settlements in Nairobi, people were haunted, and we saw in social media people being shot in their residential areas, not outside demonstrating. So the Tanzanian thing sounded familiar. You remember the Gen Z being shot dead while waving white handkerchiefs, national flags, unarmed protesters. So Kenya does it, and I will call it mass murder in Kenya, because the moment we start counting towards 100, and with falsification of reports, in the mortuary and elsewhere, you cannot know how many, even up to this day. There were rumors of Githurai massacre and of people being put in army trucks. Exactly the same script was reported in Tanzania. It appears in Tanzania it was more, because they talk of, there are those who say 3,000, there are those who say it could be anywhere between 8 and 10,000 people. We have seen in Uganda, at every general election violence, we are seeing people being shot in Bobi Wine's rallies, peaceful rallies, and you end up with bloodshed. 3 reported dead, so many being shot, intimidating people because they've done nothing else but to express themselves. Even in Tanzania, from the images we saw, the protests on 29th of October were peaceful. But then we saw the retaliation is violence. So it looks like the East African leaders are reading from the same script. They're in the same WhatsApp group. Cross-border abductions. Kenya becoming the East African capital of abductions. Kenya abducts its own nationals. It abducts foreigners living in Kenya, renditions them. We'll remember the Turkish four who were here legitimately as refugees. We'll remember Ethiopians. We'll remember 36 people abducted from Kisumu, members of Besige's party. We'll remember Besige abducted last year, November 16. We will remember, I'm forgetting the name, Mwagodi, abducted from Tanzania, rendition to Kenya. We'll remember Boniface Mwangi, Agatha Atuhaire, arrested in Tanzania but dumped. Boniface in Kenya after torture, Agatha in Mutukula, Uganda after torture.
Bob Njagi, Nicholas Oyo were the latest, abducted in Uganda. They deny, they swear false affidavits in court, and later release them, and no other than the president of Uganda admits that they had them, and he says they were in the fridge because their country never asked for them. You see? And that is not all. Those are the ones we know. The others we don't know. In Kenya, as we count, close to 100 dead in 2023, close to 100 or more dead in 2024, maybe over 30, 50 dead in the protests of this year, which were commemorating the deaths of the Gen Z. We'll remember so many abducted by KWS in Nakuru. We'll remember those dying in police stations.
We remember Ojwang and many, many others. And we are saying the 3 states have gone completely rogue. And it looks like they are collaborating. They're reading from the same script. And the citizens of the Jumuiya, particularly those 3 countries, are under attack. Democracy is under attack. And it is by the people who swore by the Constitution to uphold the rights of Kenyans, of East Africans, to defend our respective constitutions and to adhere to the Treaty of East Africa, which also talks of rule of law, and to international law. So in those circumstances, I would urge citizens, it is our duty to stand in solidarity with each other, to push back, to restore the rule of law and constitutionalism in East Africa. So to our brothers in Tanzania who are peacefully coming out tomorrow, in every nation, whether it's written in the constitution or not, it is a fact that sovereignty lies with the people. Anything done is never done in the name of the leaders. It's always in the name of the people. So to every East African citizen, members of the Jumuiya, do remember sovereignty lies with us collectively. And that the Jumuiya anthem says, Jumuiya yetu tuilinde, tuajibike. So tunalinda Jumuiya at your respective country and across the Jumuiya. So if there is cross-border abduction, there will be citizens cross-border solidarity. And that's why we were going to observe Tundu Lissu's case. That's why I'm in Uganda defending Besigye. Nalinda Jumuiya, naajibika.
Martha, you speak of a region that is guided by the law, that operates within a treaty that is the law pretty much.
Yeah.
But you look at Kenya today and the abduction that is happening, you look at the killings that is happening in Tanzania, look at even the threat that was given to Larry Madowo by Uganda president. We don't want you
Tanzania.
here. Uganda, Museveni said, we do not want you here. Stay away. And this is simply because what happened in Tanzania was given to the world for it to see. And you speak about Tanzania, there's this woman who was running and was shot at the back. And one asked the question. She was not harmed. She was just demonstrating. But
may I remind you that in Mulolongo during the Azimio demonstrations, a woman holding a baby, from school was shot. And those behind her thought she had gotten sick. And one person trying to reach out to her realized he too could not move. He had been shot in the leg. So this is the same script. People shot in their shops. Same in Tanzania.
And one then asks the question, the political leadership of the region have laws that protect the citizens, have treaties that they've signed for the East Africa community.
And internationally.
But these seem to be just suggestions. They can break them as they wish. Citizens are pushing back. What is the guarantee that we will get out there and not be killed?
The only guarantee we have is ourselves standing in solidarity. When East Africa and Africa was under colonial rule, and they had guns, and the citizens did not have, they only had their agency. They later replicated the guns the colonial masters had. And out of sheer resolve, determination, solidarity internally and across Africa, they were able to repulse the colonizer. Today, we have ukoloni mamboleo by people with skins that look like ours, but their spirit is extractive, is worse than that of the colonizer. They are fleecing us, they're chasing us away from our land, so that in Kakamega, because gold has been found, the humanity of the people in the areas where the gold is has been forgotten. 3 were killed as they're being pushed off. The law is very clear. that there has to be public participation. Yes, the law says the minerals belong to us collectively, but the law also gives us defends our human rights. There is public participation. If you're moving me, to where are you moving me? Kenya has enacted a law on how to manage minerals. Parliament forgot that in order to manage minerals, you may have to move people. There should be an elaborate law saying how compensation is given. But if there is not, we say we are part of the international community and international laws are part of us. There is the UN guidelines on how you move people, whether in relation to national resources or any sort of development. You talk to them, there must be public participation. You give compensation. There must be informed consent when they move. And the compensation is not just about the money you give them. One, that money must be adequate. Remember, they are leaving behind even sentimental things like graves.
Right.
These are where the ancestors are buried. It happened in Gishogo when I was MP towards the end, when they needed people to move for the Dhiba Dam. We held a meeting and we demanded compensation. And that was the first hefty compensation paid to the people, taking into account the UN guidelines. That was the Kibaki era. I was no longer a minister, but I was able to be a voice for my people. In Kakamega, we have also seen the same thing happening with the standard gauge railway. They didn't have to move people by force because they were paying them handsomely. Why is the same thing not happening in Kakamega? Why aren't people being offered something they cannot reject? Why don't you ensure that they have equivalency in land, in communal things like schools, like water? You've got to replicate those. Those were the considerations we were discussing when my people were moving for the Dhiba Dam. It should be the same. Now we have Senator Karwale doing his work as he is supposed to be, and I congratulate him and ask the other leaders, where are you? His people should be treated like human beings. You cannot move people by force. You are spilling blood, and we have not even heard of compensation yet. You are in a hurry. And this gold is not being extracted for Kenya.
It's been there for 100 years, so you can wait a little longer.
And it's not for us. Because if it is for us, you can't be killing us. It's just like the housing. Look at how the Makongeni people were moved forcefully. The reports are that is so many families, almost 40,000 people. The court orders them to halt. They ignore the court order, and they have completely finished bringing down the houses. So we'll push you out anyway. The same with the people who were living on the riverine when there were floods. And the Kenya government suddenly decides that people have to stay 60 meters away. But 60 meters only in low-income areas. We have houses that are practically on the river in the posh estates in Runda, in where, or along the riverine. In Lavington, we even have flats that are almost across the river, huge blocks of flats. They haven't come down, only Mathare, the poor and the defenseless.
Continue.
Economic apartheid.
This is what we're looking at. And it's interesting because these are the rights that are being fought for across board. Whether we're looking at Kenya, whether Uganda or Tanzania.
Tanzania, they moved the Maasai to give it to people, to international consortiums. And the Maasai were resisting, but they were forcefully moved.
Okay.
Uganda, about moving people, that one I do not have any case in mind. But at least Kenya and Tanzania are guilty of economic apartheid.
Whereby we are saying that these are, cousins in this holy trinity.
Yeah.
In terms of the behavior across board.
Yeah.
It's interesting because there have been sentiment, Martha, and I'm interested to hear what your opinion and perhaps way forward through is this, that there have been sentiment that each country ought to mind their own business when it comes to things that ought to be done. There are senators in Kenya today, there are members of the East African Legislative Assembly who said, you know what, if there are issues going on in those other countries, then we should leave those countries to mind their issues. President Samia Suluhu went on to say something as serious as, we've messed up things in your own country, don't come and do the same here in Tanzania. So there is it's not just a feeling, it's an outward expression that everybody ought to mind their own business.
How ignorant can leaders be? Whether members of the East Africa Legislative Assembly, whether a sitting president, how do you display your ignorance in public? Let's just start with the national anthem, even before you go, in the Jumuiya anthem, even before you go to the treaty. Jumuiya yetu tuilinde. And that's the refrain, so you keep on singing it after every stanza. Tuajibike, tuimarike. We have come together so that we do things together, so that we leverage on our numbers, so that we leverage on good practices across. So that we can be able. The Jumuiya was not made for leaders to maintain themselves in power. So when President Yoweri Museveni says they should form a federation army, before they form a federation army, and I tweeted that way, can we first have free movement of people and goods? I remember when I was a child, when I was a small girl, school going and knowing things, in my mother's shop, we used to receive money from all three East African countries. From Uganda, from Tanzania, people could buy because our currencies were equivalent. And we had the East Africa community then. Movement of people was totally unrestricted. But in these days of bad governance, although we have an East African treaty which is about people, about trade with each other, movement of goods, people, services, therefore I should be able to practice law in all three countries. Other than Kenya that freely admits advocates from Uganda and Tanzania, in the other two countries, it's so difficult. You saw how I was mistreated when I applied to represent Besigye. I was called names and my application thrown out. It took a combined effort of the Kenya Law Society, East Africa Law Society, Uganda Law Society, and civil society in Uganda demonstrating for me to be let in. And the heaviest voice was the Kenya Law Society, thanks to Faith, leadership of Faith Odhiambo. They told Uganda, we are going to send home you have over 500 advocates practicing here. It is not because those advocates were at fault, but it's about reciprocity. I think that's the heaviest that made them relax. And now I'm able to go to court there. So what our leadership is doing is ignoring all aspects of Jumuiya. It's no longer about the people. It's about these three states gone rogue. It's about supporting each other in oppressing the people. Nothing else. Look at Dr. William Ruto donning a yellow suit, which is the color of his party, and which is Museveni's color of his party. The symbolism was not lost. Going to a Museveni function, because they went to launch the DevKey,
yes.
Whatever. We don't know what interest the two of them have in it. It's not just a trade. It looks like they could be having a stake. I say looks like. That most likely they could be having a stake. And he went there to support in full regalia. Bob Jage and Nicholas Oyo were still there. Nothing about them. It's about them supporting each other. This is so wrong. You cannot use the state. Use the facility which the people gave you, and you swore to defend the Constitution, which means also defending and upholding best interests of the people. These are three rogue states.
Mother, this paints a sad picture of leaders who are hell-bent on doing everything within their power to remain at the helm of the seat. That includes killing innocent civilians. That includes abducting and disappearing individuals. That means torture.
Curtailing every civil
curtailing.
liberty.
Yes. And one asks the question, even as the political class continues to fight to control these, to be in power, it is to serve the people. Then why kill? Why torture the same people that you want to lead?
I think this is where we need to call ourselves to a small meeting as citizens. Why do you continue to listen to a leader who does not respect your life, your humanity, and even our property? Because when the leadership, we just have had by-elections here in Kenya, and we saw how violent they were. In Bere and in Malava, if I might just, and even in Kasipul, Kabondo. It was total chaos. And thereafter, we have seen police tear gassing a church where the second deputy president was having a meeting. Why do you curtail civil liberties? It actually reminded me of William Ruto during the Uhuru era. They were not tear gassed in church, at least. But I remembered a tour his people had, I can't remember whether he was present, in Murang'a, and I remember C.S. Alice Wahome was among those people, and there were tear gas outside Keno. The same places now, the opposition is being tear gassed. Surely, if you are crying that time that you're being pushed and swearing that you'll not be doing those things, this goes to Dr. William Ruto and his brigade. Why are you repeating the same script? If that time you were crying out aloud, don't you think that the people you are doing this to are human? And to our police officers and security agencies, you know your job. Your job is to police, is to ensure there is security for everyone. Why do you create insecurity for the opposition and for the citizens? Why do you kill citizens in the name of dispersing, whether it's a protest, or whether it is a political gathering? Why don't you remember that if you bring this country down, you too will suffer? You electoral official, why do you bangle the elections? Like in Bere, why did you chase people away from a tallying center to be left alone? Why do you bring armored tanks to an election? Why do you have so much police as to intimidate all over the country? How does a hotel get destroyed, vandalized, in a place that is so militarized, there is so much police? How do cars get banned? And you check whose car? Opposition. Whose hotel? Opposition. Yet you say you are in control. If you are in control, then tell us who banned, because it is you or your people.
What should be the picture that's painted, and this falls right at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, what should be the picture that's painted of Kenya? You imagine that if any one of your citizens is tied up in something, that there would be an immediate response to that, whether it was outward expression or, negotiations diplomatically. We don't see that as robustly as we thought.
His PS and the entire team don't seem to get it. You are national, whether you like them or not, are the ones paying your salary. That comfortable office you sit on, that title is our title. So anybody who gets into trouble in another country is your business. And they seem to know that because they went to negotiate for the woman who was it Malaysia? Where was it?
Oh, on drugs?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, it was in Nepal, was it? No, I'm sorry. I'll get that right. Vietnam. It was Vietnam, yes.
And then they also went to negotiate in the Arab world for our son who was on the death
in Saudi Arabia,
That way, they did it the right way. Even if your citizen is wrong, you should even say, bring him, we jail him here. This is his home. We are talking of citizens who are not in the wrong. They have just gone, Bob Jage and Nicholas Oyo were exercising their rights as East Africans, visiting their brother, same way Ruto visited his brother Museveni. So why do you put them in? Don't you want other people to have friends the way you have? Why should we be deported? Because we have gone to observe a public trial. Because by the law of Tanzania, a criminal trial is a public trial. So why shouldn't we visit to observe? Why should it hurt them? Cooperation among us citizens, they should be getting very happy about it, just the way they cooperate as leaders.
Right.
So we are looking at leadership that has completely disregarded the constitution of their respective countries and their laws, disregarded the East Africa Constitutive Act, and they are operating outside of the law. That's why I call them rogue states. I don't want to go beyond that. I want to leave it there. I don't want to be personal.
This paints a picture of a strong man who's really afraid. A strong woman who's really, really afraid of the citizenry who are woke, who know their rights, and who are demanding justice. Because you look at the statements that followed thereafter when Boniface Mwangi was arrested and tortured in Tanzania. And the first statement that we had from, again, Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs is that they are exporting bad manners. And this was repeated even in National Assembly. And even asking the leadership in Tanzania, wafinye kabisa uwarudishe huko, you know. And you look at again what is happening in Uganda, citizens coming up demanding their right to vote, that democracy is a reality again. They are beat up, they are shot at, and the same is replicated in Kenya. Speaks of a leadership that is really afraid that its citizenry finally can stand up and demand justice, you reckon?
Indeed, you got it completely right. That these people, the leadership in East Africa, in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, are scared of the very citizens, and they want to behave like they are no rights, and they're telling people, "You talk, we come for you." That's what they've been doing to the Gen Z. In fact, I want to remember that a year later, the Mlolongo 4, 2 turned up dead. And I apologize because I didn't remind myself of their names, because we must give people their names. They must not remain faceless. 2 have not been seen.
Till today.
What hope do we have? What proof of life? The fact that the 2 turned up dead in mortuaries when the court was about to put the leadership of the police on the dock, when their colleagues who were alive were being dumped in various places in Kenya, 2 turned up dead in mortuaries. So the authorities must tell us where the other 2 are. We must remember that our courts also stand indicted. Not all of them. Some of them are doing very well. Why would a court keep the case of people who are missing for a year? These cases were filed December last year. What is the leadership of the judiciary doing about this? What are we telling the state, when cases of habeas corpus are not heard a whole year? Why do we believe statements we know, any reasonable person would think are false? Because how come people pop up either on the day or just at the night before the police seniors are going to be put on the dock? What is the reasonable deduction?
And those questions must be asked. And even
we ask them in court.
Yeah. And even as we do that, we're looking at an election vortex in the country at the moment. Tanzania just came out of it. Uganda's going into it. And in another year, Kenya will be going into it. I mean, we're likely to see heavy electioneering and campaigning come 2026, just in a few weeks going forward. And we've come off of a by-election, which for all intents and purposes in Kenya was, you would think it was a general election. And there were many things that were seen. I mean, having been involved in many an election yourself, Martha, and then sitting at a place whereby you guided justice and constitutional affairs for some time, and then looking at what is currently constituted as an IEBC, speaking fairly, speaking objectively, what have we seen from your point of view that could point to what could happen in the future?
We have seen total incompetence by the IEBC. the way they responded to the threat to violence just before the elections, fining parties $1 million each, which they can afford. That is telling them carry on. And they indeed carried on until it got very ugly. You must find who is at fault. The moment they'll bar a candidate rightly, or a party, find both the candidate and the party and warn them that next time is exclusion from the elections. They have teeth, they refuse to bite. On election day, the police who are in the precincts of polling stations are under the returning officer or presiding officer of that polling station. So when violence happens and agents are either blocked or candidates are blocked from coming to see what is happening, the IBC is complicit. And that is why, Mr. Ekethon, we are calling you and your team incompetent. We didn't see you using the tools at hand. If you can't manage a mini election, how will you manage the general elections? We'll be visiting you in your offices to tell you this to your face, because this is a feedback, honest feedback from citizens that you have displayed incompetence. How will you then convince Kenyans that you can handle general elections? Remember, you may have been appointed by Ruto, but he didn't appoint you to his family enterprise. He appointed you on a seat where we, the public, are paying you. You are our employee. Listen to us and read the Constitution. Acquaint yourself with what your job should be.
How would you read the electoral agencies in the region? Look at the INEC in Tanzania. You go to Uganda.
Goodness.
You come to Kenya.
They act at the behest of the leadership. Exactly. Look at Uganda. Have you heard any statement? Uganda has been quite funny because in certain seats, they have disqualified everybody else just to leave Museveni's candidates. In Tanzania, they actually barred Chadema, the main challenger. Suluhu went to the elections against her own shadow. And Suluhu versus Hassan, she got 98%, where the voters were on the streets, not in the polling stations. Perhaps the security agencies could have voted, and that's the 98%. And you look at Kenya. Kenya, there was a contest, and they come up with 50-50, one just passing the other slightly. After so much money, so much intimidation. Is that something to gloat about? Let's assume those votes were okay. Is it a clear win, a decisive win? No, it isn't. To the citizens of all 3 East African countries, and especially my fellow Kenyans, don't lose hope. It looks like the nation is tilted towards one term. But we must check our failures as the opposition. What could we have done better in a bad situation to make sure that our win does not go away, that our win persists? Those are the lessons we must learn. And as citizens, we know life is hard. We know the cost of living has gone up. Joblessness is at an all-time high. We know people are not assured of their daily meals. But what I would say is that on the day of election, the hunger of one day will not kill you. Do not take money. Not on the day of elections, make it a special day. I will not talk about what you do other days. But on the day of elections, let it be clear that a majority of people won't change. And if you get anybody distributing money, chase them away. And if that money drops, let the person go without it. You know?
Do you think, Martha, even these things that you're saying, that is Kenya ready for those discussions, not just the discussions, but the movement? Here we are, because I tried to think about this, and even conversations that we've had over the last week. and even the last few years, that it is the modus operandi for people to take money around election times and even other times, whereby they want to feed a need of the day.
Yeah.
Because the need exists. We can call it whatever.
And it's acute.
It is. It exists.
Yeah.
But then we've also been told that there are people who take money even if they do have food in their homes. They're not hungry on that day.
It's a culture.
But they still take the money. Exactly.
It's a culture.
So how do you break culture and tradition? And that's my question. That is Kenya ready for that position whereby you say, I am going to hold you accountable for the work that you will do if I give you my vote? And I'm not going to give you my vote based on something that you put in my hand on the day that you are asking for it. Are we ready to make that move, that transition?
I'll answer it with a question. Are we ready? Are you and me ready to hold that conversation? Because people talk of civic education. Yes. They do not see themselves as the prime movers of that education or engagement. They see the next person. Every Kenyan who is aware must lead civic engagement in their sphere of influence. You have your family members, you have your friends, you have your chama members. Can each one of us spearhead that conversation, that how shall we deliver and safeguard our votes? Because we all have a duty. Zote tulinde katiba na tuajibike. If I may repeat the words of the Jumuiya National Anthem, but you now actualize them in your own area. And by the way, Article 2 of our Constitution says that we all have a duty to uphold and defend the Constitution. So even that anthem is derived from our laws. So it is your duty, you and me, to uphold and defend the Constitution. How do you defend it? By making sure that the areas of influence you command act in accordance. So let every Kenyan, every knowledgeable Kenyan, and take civic engagement. I will not call it education. All of us have an inherent moral compass we come with from the factory. There is something that tells you when you're about to tip over. And that small voice inside you will be telling you, no. Another one, just go on. So we all know when we are doing something wrong. So know that when you help violate the electoral code, whether you are a clerk, a presiding officer, or a returning officer, you are messing your own country. When our money is abused and there is no medicine in the hospitals, even if you're a big boss who can afford private health, you might have an emergency next to a public facility in the rural area. We had a plane crash in Busia. If there was no first aid in Busia, even with the planes being sent from Nairobi to collect us, we would have reached Nairobi dead. So what saved me on the crash is not the hospital I was brought to in Nairobi, is the first aid I received in Busia. So you do not know when you will require services. It is in our best interest to safeguard our resources, ensure they work for us, so that every part of Kenya is as nearly as possible like the other. It cannot happen when we are stealing and encouraging theft of our money. When we receive from politicians what we know is not from their pocket, we are encouraging theft of our resources. So how do we safeguard?
Yes, exactly.
Our common good, including our resources? Please start that conversation where you are. Don't give up. Dictatorship and authoritarianism have never won in the world. The question is not if, it is when and how they get out.
You speak of corruption, and most of the time we hear in these campaign trails on how kula pesa lakini unajua kura unaweka wapi. Perhaps it's a conversation as well that the political class needs to call out and ensure that citizens do not partake in this bribery. But then again, if you just pause and look at what happened during the election. So we have the EACC, a body that is supposed to give its recommendations and its report on the individuals that are running for office. Here we have an individual who has question marks on their background. But then again, you find that they're being cleared. They're running for elections. We ask IEBC, they are not aware. And one asks the question, when you speak of multi-agency approach to ensure that the elections are free, credible, and fair, how is that when an individual who's running for office has question marks?
The question is, multi-agency, who are they working for? When do we see these agencies coming into action? Like the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, which is tone deaf when operatives in government are speaking, but will have microscopic hearing potential when it is people from the opposition. And sometimes you see the EAC, the Anti-Corruption Commission acting the same way. You see the prosecution, even withdrawal of charges of the politically correct, and persecution of those who are not. So which agency can stand up and be counted? I'm reminding those who man and woman these agencies that you work for the people of Kenya, and that we as citizens, including those working in places of influence, we have our own agency as individuals. And we are under our constitutional duty to uphold and defend our constitution. Remember that. And remember, if you foul, it will come back to you. We have a saying in my language, you do good unto yourself. You do bad, you do it unto yourself. So that hospital, whose money you have presided over theft and corruption, you may yourself die of an emergency in that hospital away from your comfort zone. If not you, it will be somebody dear to you. Those roads we are refusing to do because of corruption, or we are unable to do because of corruption. You might yourself be a victim of a road accident. We all live in Kenya. Our fate is intertwined. It is in our best interests to safeguard our resources, because when the public services are good, all of us can partake. And those who have an option will then have more than one option. You will have your preferred option, but if it fails, you still can enjoy the public. The same with education. Because we are then, when we don't give quality services, the access is removed from a majority who are not able to go to the alternative. So why can't we do something for our country? To those in leadership, you go to stash our money in Dubai and other places. Dubai, it is the leadership who delivered to have a Dubai like the one you see. It was just a desert the other day, which nobody would have loved to go to. Now it's a preferred destination. Those countries in Europe where you're hiding your money. There were countries in the last century where people were dying of disease and hunger. The most famous being the potato famine in England. And they had all manner of pestilence because they were unhygienic. Look at where they are. Their nationals sat together, the leadership, rolled up their sleeves and said, for God and my country, we'll do this. They didn't think about getting rich. They thought about the country collectively moving forward. That is servant leadership. When shall those in leadership remember that they're there to serve, not to lie in their pockets, not to lead comfortable lives?
And if they don't remember this?
We remove them. That's why we are having this conversation, that it is your duty, my duty. Let us get ready to help ourselves. In the People's Liberation Party, we say unite, liberate. We recognize unity of purpose, solidarity is completely necessary. It's not an option. It is an imperative, so that we can liberate yourself. No one person will liberate this country. It is us together. So can we act together deliberately? The way we did in 2002, we voted, we guarded the vote. Do not agree to be deceived by anybody in authority than when you vote, you go home.
Indeed.
Stay around the polling station. You cannot stay inside the classroom, but you can stay 20 meters, meaning you are still within the school, so that they know the people are there to watch their vote. And let us aggregate the votes as soon as they are known. Do not wait for the returning officer in the constituency office. Aggregate the vote and shout your vote. Let's stop them from manipulating. It's manipulated during tallying. Because in Kenya, voting has been done. It is the tallying that is the problem. It is the bribery that is the problem. It is the denial of access to agents. These are the things we are going to sit across the table with those, however much we think they are not suitable. We must build their capacity just in case that they're the ones who will be there. So Ekathon and team, I'll be knocking on your door soon so that we can have civic engagement. I bet you cannot educate or give civic engagement, good and healthy civic engagement to Kenyans when you yourself are not empowered. The next footsteps you hear is me arriving in your office.
She said it, and she's the party leader of the People's Liberation Party, Martha Karua, and many things that we've been able to go through this morning. But I guess the next step is a visit, which we'll all see, of course, and that we continue to engage in this discourse. Thank you for being here this morning for us to be able to do that. And we look forward to the next because they must be regular.
Asante sana. Just to remind everybody, our country, our region is in our hands. Let's wake up and do something. Have a blessed festive season. And remember, Martha Karua will be asking for your vote to be president of this republic. I describe myself as the standing president. William Ruto may be the sitting one. I'm the standing one, waiting for that seat.
There you go.
Courtesy of the people.
It's 2:02. Good morning.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. Now, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has invited political parties and various stakeholders to a briefing of the November 27th by-election. The briefing, which will be held today in Nairobi, is expected to provide a comprehensive overview of the by-election, gather stakeholders' views to gain strategic direction on how to conduct the upcoming elections. The IBC has raised concerns over incidents of violence and intimidation reported in various areas, including Kasipul, Malava, and Nyansiongo, Nyamaya, and Erekenyo wards in Nyamira County. IBC Chairperson Erastus Ethekon condemned the incident, stressing that elections are a democratic exercise and that no person or group has the right to jeopardize the peace, security, or integrity of the process. The meeting comes after the Kenya Human Rights Commission, Transparency International Kenya, the Independent Legal Unit, and Siasa Place said the election was marred by serious irregularities. 4 suspects accused of running an elaborate fake tender scheme that defrauded a businessman of 105,000 Kenya shillings through a bogus Kenya Prison Service supply contract will be arraigned today. The DCI says the suspects, described as smooth-talking pretenders, posed as senior prisons officers and convinced the victim that he had won a contract to supply vegetables to the Kitui GK prisons. A search of the vehicle uncovered an assortment of forged documents and items allegedly linked to the scheme, including 37 fake Kenya Prison Service tender approval forms, 2 counterfeit Kenya Prisons job ID cards, as well as 8 mobile phones and 6 national ID cards belonging to different individuals. And moving on, is that senators have accused several government officers and members of parliament of owning rogue recruitment agencies that leave desperate Kenyans stranded abroad after promising lucrative jobs. According to the legislators, some officers in the ministries of Labour and Foreign Affairs, as well as certain members of the National Assembly's Departmental Committee on Labour, are linked to unscrupulous firms that exploit job seekers. The allegations followed testimonies from Kenyan migrant workers stranded in Qatar during a visit by the Senate Standing Committee on Trade and Tourism. Embu Senator Alexander Mundingi described how job seekers are lured by these agencies, some tied to MPs and officials, only to be abandoned abroad. And finally, Kenyans have been invited to submit their opinions on a proposed sale of government-held Safaricom shares, a move aimed at raising billions to finance key development projects. The plan outlined in Secessional Paper Number 3 of 2025 seeks to offload 15% of the government's stake while retaining a strategic 20% with proceeds earmarked for infrastructure, digital transformation and other priority sectors. In a notice, National Assembly Clerk Samuel Njoroge said the submissions will guide parliamentary committees as they scrutinize the plan, ensuring transparency and public participation. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
We look at the utterances of leaders who are aligned to broad-based, who were initially in ODM. We thought they stand for something. Now they've been exposed.
Because we are a third world country, we are poor. And not because we don't have resources, but we have been robbed senseless.
Look at the wasteful expenditure. Look at how large government lives. And we've said this is something that can be controlled. It happens in many other countries.
Internally, we used to stand and tell him, boss, hii kitu ni mbaya. And you'd say, now he doesn't let me tell you, you saw the other parliamentary group meeting. People went there, sat, listened, looked at him. There was no plenary, left.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
You have land, Dennis. Yeah. Okay, your own land. You use your own money to build it, and then you sell it to yourself.
But we don't want foreign troops on Kenyan soil.
But surely it goes a little bit deeper. This is it.
If you find the tree is withering, then you call the person who is managing that tree. Come around.
Yeah,
Why? Tell me what is
first of all, what's the problem?
Yes, what is the problem there?
How do we expect ourselves to move forward as a country?
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
At 7 minutes after 9 o'clock, the conversation gets into its final hour this morning. And as we do, I'm asking that question, what's your plan? Do you have a plan? Well, even if you don't, there are folks who are going to help you get on the road in terms of what that plan ought to be. What are you thinking about? And what is it that you think you want to do getting into the future? Is it putting aside little bits of money, bit by bit, over time to make sure that the things that you want to do can actually be achieved? Where are we going with that? Well, the good folks at ICA Line are saying, you know what? We've been discussing how to navigate this constantly changing world. And when it comes to your money, you need a plan that's easy to access. The good news, ICA Line is making your financial journey seamless and digital. Forget the old-fashioned complicated stuff. ICA Line has digitized channel like their WhatsApp chatbot. He's called Leo. And also the self-service portal, making planning super easy. They even have a retirement preparedness index tool. It helps you calculate exactly how much you need for retirement and gives you a specific target to plan towards. ICEA is making insurance and investment necessities not just luxuries, but for a diverse group of people. Find your accessible, inclusive, and helpful plan today. What you need to do, ask the question, what's your plan? Check out the digital tools at icealion.co.ke. And there are ways in which you can get on and stay on the internet, no?
Yes, because Airtel has something called the Airtel Happy Hour Unlimited Fun Bundle. You know, Unlimited Fun Bundle. And it's at what time? Happy hour.
Right.
But how do you get it? *544#, or you go to Your My Airtel app, or you buy an Airtel SIM card that will enable you buy these bundles. Now, we're talking about bundles that are affordable. So we're talking about an hour at 19 shillings, unlimited, remember, _ unlimited. And then you have 3 hours at 45 shillings. And this will enable you to be part of conversations that are ongoing. People are getting into the Christmas mood, Christmas season. New movies have been released, songs have been released that people get to enjoy during this time. So don't be that individual who is driving, enjoying your Christmas ballads in your vehicle, but you stop enjoying that because data has gone off. Get yourself on the Airtel Unlimited Fun Bundle that will enable you to be part of the conversation, be in rooms and enjoy these movies, these songs during this festive season. What is your story? Talk to us, and Flavier will be getting in touch with you, and you can win yourself 3,000 airtime courtesy of Airtel.
It's fantastic. And those are the conversations that we look into when it's necessary for you to do one thing to keep things afloat and keep them moving. All right. Getting into our final conversation for this Situation Room on this 8th of December. Two ladies join us in the Situation Room today. And we're looking at, they'll tell us in a bit, but Gladys Mungai is the Kenya Human Rights Commission Senior Program Advisor on Land, Environment and Resource Justice. She's joined by Annette Nerima, who is a program manager with the Kenya Human Rights Commission. Ladies, very good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for being here this morning. Thank you for joining us in the hot seats of the Situation Room. As we get into this conversation, Dennis is going to welcome you with today's proverb. We'd love to get your interpretation of the same.
So our proverb today is from the continent, nowhere specific, yeah? So it is an African proverb and speaks more about how we address ourselves and what we really mean. So here we go. Examine what is said, not who is speaking.
Wow, thanks. I'll go first. My layman's understanding is that the focus should be on the context and also the context that is being displayed or shared out there, as opposed to who. So basically the what. And for today's purposes, just bringing it home, we need not to focus on the Kenya Human Rights Commission that we are representing, but rather the information that we'll be sharing, which we believe is of national interest. Thanks.
Gladys, how would you interpret it?
Thank you. So I want to tie it with the quote that says that never judge a book by its cover. So it's always good to listen. And out of listening, you're able to get a lot. So there's also the meme that goes when someone wants to sing that don't listen to the voice, listen to the message. So it's about what is being delivered. It's not about who is delivering it. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's great. The conversation in the hot seat this morning then is essentially what's happening with this latest report from the Kenya Human Rights Commission. Economic choices are hurting citizens, is what we're being told. Deepening inequality. 4 years is the time we're looking at. Interest on public debt has jumped to 25% from 18% of total spending. Estimates suggest that wealth taxation in Kenya could generate up to 129 billion shillings, nearly double the current budget for social protection, and it goes on. You've released 2 new reports showing how Kenya's current economic direction is stripping resources from essential services. We're talking about the economics of repression, essentially, unfortunately, and looking at questions about who owns Kenya. This is one of the big ones when we come to land. That the numbers are, in terms of what the scale is doing, are interesting because 2% of Kenya's population owns 70+% of Kenya's arable land. These are some of the things that we are looking at today. And this is all according to a report that was done. First of all, let's look at what the thrust of the report was in the first place, why it was necessary to do this and look into it. We'll start with you, Gladys.
So the reason why we did the report is because we are looking at how Kenyans are struggling, especially the ordinary Kenyans, when it comes to issues of taxation. There's a very huge burden on issues of taxation to the common man. And our tax base majorly is on consumption and income. And that means that the ordinary people are the ones who largely are carrying the biggest burden when it comes to issues of tax. But there's a huge wealth that is never really taxed, and it's called the land. And this report was majorly looking at the historical background of how land in Kenya is owned. And we all know the history of how land, especially during the colonial times, was taken from Kenyans, given to the white settlers, and thereafter, post-independence, the way the elite captured the distribution of land. So in essence, we are saying that 2% of Kenyans who own huge tracts of land, and we're talking of from 200 acres and above, and are actually going scot-free when it comes to issues of paying tax to that land. Because majority of that land is very idle. Majority of that land is just kept for speculation. And the people, 98% of the population actually from the report says that they only have like 3 acres of land, 98% of the population. So that means the 2% of the population that own this land, they usually don't do much with the land. So it's idle. And it means when you're also looking at how land is taxed in Kenya, we're looking even at the land rates that are paid. We were looking at some of these counties and the rolls that they use. They're so outdated. They are using rates as back as in the 80s. So in a nutshell, there are people who are really sitting quietly with their wealth accumulating day in, day out, because some of these land are in very prime areas, and the common person is the one now is suffering when it comes to cushioning the budget of this country. When it comes to fuel tax, we all pay the fuel levy, regardless of whether I earn 1 million, regardless of whether I earn 15,000 shillings. We pay the same. So it's quite an injustice to the person who owns maybe 1/8 of an acre, paying the same level of tax with someone who owns maybe 1,000 acres of land, and they're using the same services. So in short, the report looks at how best the country can be able to increase their revenue through taxing the wealth, and this wealth is the land. Because we all know land is a source of, it's a source, when it comes to production, land is the main factor. And so if we do not tax land, it means that many people are suffering because mere 2% of the population, clearly, it's quite disturbing, and they own almost, I would say, 70, but it's by the report, I think it's around 52% of the land in Kenya. So that means basically they own Kenya, I would say. They own half of Kenya, but they contribute little when it comes to taxation. And we all know taxation is what runs this country. Yeah.
Annette speaks of a question. I was going through the report, and the question is, who owns Kenya? You know, it appears as if it's the 2% that you're talking about, you know. But even then, there are laws. There is a taxation regime. But one would say the taxation regime is aimed at hurting majority and benefiting the few. Why would that be the case?
So I'll take us a bit on the broad objective, because it all points to the planning and budgeting processes of a country. And in an ideal situation, the planning and budgeting should be about the public and their welfare. So the responsibility to provide the economic and social rights, human rights in general, should be by the government of the day. And so that's why we took it upon ourselves as Kenya Human Rights Commission, looking at the human rights angle to some of the decisions, especially within our budgeting and planning processes. And it's not news. We all know that as a country, we are grappling with high wage bill. We are grappling with high debt servicing. And the human rights angle to it is what we are missing, the nuances, the experiences of the people. And broadly, that's what government should be all about. And so because this is an obligation in the Constitution, and the fact that as Kenya we have ratified too many international instruments, including the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the Convention on the Economic and Social Rights, the Convention on Civil and Political Rights, the Maputo Protocol. I mean, there are many, you know, including the Convention on Rights of Persons with Disability. So all this together with the Constitution of the day bestows a responsibility on the government to ensure that when it's planning and budgeting, people are at the center of it. But unfortunately, that's not the case we have today. And this is what led Kenya Human Rights Commission to invest in this process, to speak to the people, and also just get to understand what do our books, what do our budget documents illustrate in terms of how we are faring as a government.
Okay, I'm sorry, but the folks who have purchased, have they purchased this land? Did they grab the land? Did they have the buying power, the purchasing power to take the land at the moment? But they have it. Did they make was a sale made? Did they take it forcefully from people? How do they get into the possession of this land? Gladys.
So we all know the history of land in Kenya, and of course how it was taken from the indigenous communities during the colonial times, and we all know again who owns the land based on who knew who, or what power or what position one had during post-independence. So majority of the land that we have, even when you look at the TJRC report, the Ndungu land report, I mean, majority of the huge land that people have were not acquired through the right ways. So we can't say that majority of these people bought this land, but it was more of land that exchanged hands, land that was supposed to have gone to Kenyans. Unfortunately, it was captured by the elites of those days. And that's why you hear Kenyans say, my grandfather, instead of doing ABCD, grabbing land the way others were grabbing land during those times, maybe was dancing on Sabi. We see those names and all that. So land ownership in Kenya, of course, is usually related with injustices. So majority of the people, majority of the families that own land in Kenya, those huge tracts of land, they never took it, or rather they never got it through the right ways. They never purchased it, or say, through the right ways. Usually it's more about land grabbing, it's more about dispossessing majority of Kenyans.
How is somebody dispossessed of their land?
So
it's my land, whether it's ancestral or otherwise. How is one dispossessed of that which belongs to them?
Yeah.
How do we see this happening?
So I think one of the biggest challenges that we have in our country is corruption, especially when it comes to issues of land, where you find that majority of people, especially in the coast region, you find that someone has been born and bred in the coast region, the ancestors have been buried that land, but they do not own that piece of land. Someone else has that title, and that's why in the coast region we have so many squatters, and every now and then we are grappling with the issue of people being chased away from places that they call their ancestral home or their land. So and of course this happen. It's something that historical from our colonial masters, and then came politicians who grabbed their land, and even right now we continue seeing a land, especially public land that is in prime areas, being grabbed. We're also seeing the Community Land Act that came into force in 2016, and it necessitated that all group ranches transition to community land. But you'll be shocked in a place like Narok County. Narok County has never transitioned any group ranch into community land. And as it is right now, you'll find that who is who in Kenya currently owns a huge chunk of land in Narok. And you want to ask yourself, how have they gotten this land? So it tells you that there's a lot that goes on when it comes to issues of land and how land exchanges hands. And many communities, especially the pastoralist community, unfortunately, are the ones who have borne the brand of this land grabbing or land dispossession.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just going to follow through this a little bit, because I think when you look at the origin of it, then the things that we speak about today, where we look at these glaring figures, then maybe helps us to look towards solutions in terms of the protection of people's rights. So with the dispossession of the land of these folks, there was no security agency, the vanguard of these rights. There was nobody who was stepping in to help. I know you look at me smiling, so I don't know what happens. But, if we can put this out in the open, when somebody is dispossessed of their land, is there no, process for complaint, Who do they speak to, or are people in cahoots one to the other? What happens? Because we're looking at decades of the same behavior over and over again, to the point whereby the staggering numbers in this report, then in 2025. So is there no point for recourse where somebody goes and says, well, we had this 10 acres of land, it belonged to our family, but now there's one left, and the folks who have it are just here, we can see them.
Yeah.
Is there no recourse, legal recourse, to say get it back to those who own it?
Of course, there is legal recourse. We have the National Land Commission, and one of the mandates of the National Land Commission is to ensure that historical land injustices or historical land claims are addressed. And I want just to give an example of Kakuzi. Kakuzi has a list of 1,000+ acres of land in Kiambu and Murang'a and partly in Machakos. And recently, we saw that there was a ruling by the NLC that they need to give a portion, or like 1,000 acres, to communities, because that land belonged to the communities. But you see, they've gone again to court to challenge that decision. And you're looking at not just Kakuzi, you're looking at the likes of Del Monte, we're looking at the likes of Tata Mining Company. In Magadi, the other day we saw the conflict that was between the county government of Kajiado and Magadi, a company that has a concession of 224,000 acres of land, and they're only utilizing around 11,000 acres of it. And when it comes to issues of paying land rates, they do not want to pay according to market value. So we are looking at it in such a way that these people, especially the foreign investors, they are protected by the law, because you find that like the Magadi Mining Company, the lease was for 100 years, since 1901 up to, I think, was it last year but one. So the lease was for 100 years. Now the lease is over, and now the community says, now we need to sit on the table and negotiate afresh. But again, you find that they are powerful voices of powerful people who are part of these deals, and becomes a little hard for the communities to really get what is gainfully theirs. But what we are saying is that we have laws in place. The Constitution of Kenya is very clear. We have the land policy as well, the NLC. We have laws in place, but the biggest challenge is implementing and enforcing those laws. Because again, the biggest culprits are the ones who make those laws.
So we talk about taxation that is there. We talk about the laws that do exist. We talk about NLC that has the powers to deal with matters to do with land in the country. But we also find that NLC as well finds itself in a tight place, because we have politics, and we find some decisions that are coming from that office, and you ask yourself, really? I thought you are the custodians. You have the powers to reign over decisions around land, that anything that is that belongs to the people of Kenya, it is you to speak about. But you found it is the political class that is addressing itself on the same, and not NLC as Kenyans would expect. But that, even as we have this discussion, so there is the aspect that you look at the high net areas. So let's talk about the Karens, let's talk about the Kilimanis, let's talk about the Rundas, right? And you look at the taxation in those areas vis-a-vis other areas that are not so lucrative, and there is kidogo disparity. And one would say those are designed to protect the haves. The have-nots, mtajipanga kidogo. And would I be right if I just paint that picture like that?
You're very right. Our systems, the taxation systems, actually favor the high net worth individuals. And when you look at, for instance, just a good example would be the Finance Bill of 2024 and even 2023. You see that the VAT, for instance, that affects the common Momanyi, that's where the government was interested. When you look at the incomes of the ordinary Kenyans, that's where the direction in terms of taxing was pointed to. When you look at the housing levy, for instance, the shift share, all that was towards the common Momanyi. But then you see things such as aircraft, those ones that are owned by high net worth individuals, they're the ones that are exempted. Look at the real estate, for instance, who are the people in there, you see? So that basically indicates that the system actually favors the high-end individuals, but again burdens more the ordinary Kenyans. And when you look at it broadly, you look at in terms of investment of those taxes as well, because when you give taxes, you have an expectation that the government will ensure that the public sector will ensure that the welfare of the Mwananchi is catered for. But then look at these two huge spending factors, the debt repayment, for instance, and also the wage bill. What are they doing? They have crowded out resources that would have otherwise gone towards spending in sectors such as health, such as education, such as food, water and sanitation, and social protection that the taxpayer cares more about. And I'll just quickly speak to some of these findings, because at the end of the day, we now are saying that our revenues have been mortgaged. And let's just look at it quickly. Like, you are managing a household that within every given month, you see yourself before paying school fees for your children, before buying medicine, that 68% of your income is given to the creditors. You have to pay. And then at the same time, you have these fixed bills. You have electricity bill, you have water bill, you have rent to pay. That also, again, takes about 42%. We are talking about 100% at this particular point. So you have not bought bread, you have not eaten, you have not taken your children to school. That's basically the picture in the country at the moment, and that's actually a problem of survival. And so, as we're having this conversation, which is a national, a matter of national interest, I think we cannot avoid to bring politics into it, because the current debt situation, the current wage bill situation is actually a political combustion. It's basically news and something that the current regime, that's the Kenya Kwanza regime, needs to pay attention, because the state of public debt, the state of wage bill is actually crowds out political legitimacy. And this explains why we have wealth, but unfortunately this wealth has been locked in a vault labeled debt repayment. It explains why in 2023, 2024 and 2025 we've had public protests. This year alone we can count up to 5 protests characterized in doctors' strikes, nurses' strikes, teachers' strikes, and also lecturers' strikes, the youth strikes because there's high unemployment. You see limited disbursement of capitation to schools. It explains why our children have to be sent home early enough so that the government can keep on surviving, yet it never even stops and rethinks of its decisions. And so as we head towards 2027, my view would be that the government of the day stops, and instead of handing over bribes that we witnessed during the by-election, how about you take this money and invest in the social sector, such as health, such as education, so that this in itself is campaign. You are not going to get to the tail end of 2026 into 2027 to start bribing instead of investing in these people. So as we'll be speaking, you'll see a grim picture that we are in a state that is dire and bleak as regards to the economic and social rights that the ordinary Kenyan cares about, and it's a moment that we need to actually pause and rethink. And importantly is the social protection. I don't know whether we have a moment to speak to that.
We do.
Yes, perhaps I can touch on that quickly.
If you can, I ask you a question that would lead to that, essentially, because then we're asking questions about what ought to be done, that we can highlight these things, and that the opportunity whereby one of these things could be speaking to government, but you have to also ask yourself the question is that, are they listening? And beyond listening, are they doing? And that they should be met with chagrin, if they don't already know, about this one glaring thing from this report in terms of who owns Kenya's land. And it's clearly not the people. So even as you go towards social protection, the question is, how are we getting folks who should be in positions whereby they do something about this glaring inadequacies, and not just listen to words that are being said, if that?
Yeah, this is a multifaceted situation that different actors, both within government and without, can be able to take necessary action. And I'm saying this because we have an opportunity to make it right. These are all policy choices. And so when you talk about policy choices, we are basically saying you can do it right as a government. And I have seen in many times, and especially in the recent financial years, where in 2024, 2025, the government of the day has actually developed 3 supplementary budgets. Why is that? Because it's trying to beat the law. So during the allocation process, you make sure that 30% actually goes towards development. When it comes to expenditure, you come up with supplementary budgets, draw monies from the development expenditure, take it into debt repayment, take it into recurrent expenditure, so that at the end of the day hurts the development sectors and the key critical sectors that the ordinary man cares about, which is health, education, food, social protection, and the likes. And this act actually mathematically makes sense because the government has been able to scheme its way around it. But let's face it, this is politically unsustainable, and also morally indefensible. So when we were looking at this study, the cash transfer actually paints really a bad picture. And we have seen people on top of cars actually says, tumetenga bilioni 15 ambayo itaenda kwa wazee, for instance. And we have seen people mention numbers that we have enrolled a good number. And when we were looking at these documents, for instance, the older persons, their enrollment grew because we looked at 5 financial years, that is 2020, 2021 to 2024, 2025. And we saw the number grow from 763,000 to about 1.3 individuals that are enrolled in this program. But again, within those 5 financial years, we see the amounts that are disbursed to this cash transfer program go down. For instance, for older persons, went down from 18 billion to 15 billion. On orphans and vulnerable, the enrollment grew again from 293 to about 443. When you look at persons with severe disability, their numbers grew from 33,000 to about 62,000, and the amounts from 815. The disbursement went down from 815 to 748, and that of orphans and vulnerable children from about 7 billion to 5 billion. So these numbers are going down in terms of disbursement, but enrollment is going up. Let's do a quick math here. So when you divide 15 billion by 1.3, it gives us around 11,000 that each individual receives. But again, the practice has been these monies are disbursed after 3 months. So you divide 11,000 by 3. That gives you about 3,500 thereabout. So divide by a month, each month, it will give you about 1,200 that these individuals receive. So this compromises on dignity, So we cannot purport to be sending money, to be disbursing or claiming to be pushing for social protection, whereas at the end of the day, really this does not uphold human dignity. So this is quite questionable, and the government of the day needs to take note and do better, because they can do better. Just the same way we prioritize the macro level, ensuring that we pay our debt, ensuring that we can appoint very many advisors as much as possible. We should also be deliberate in ensuring that we invest in these sectors. A good example would also be, like, we are talking about 1,200. This coupled with inflation, because again, the purchasing power really is affected. Look at the high cost of living. So, I mean, it's something that really needs to be paid attention to.
Gladys, as we just look at the numbers and what it really paints in terms of 1,200 a month and what that can do really, and we ask the question in terms of, we heard the State of the Nation address, and you just listen to that, and at the macro level, it's doing very well. The international community is, hey, Kenya is doing very well. The Bretton Woods institutions are saying, yes, in fact, we need to come in and strategize how we are sorting things out. But when it comes to the micro, Mwananchi, story ni different. Kwa ground, mambo ni different, you know. And here's the question where even when we make all these policies, the best feedback mechanism would be the Momanyi. Walk into Momanyi's home and ask them how the situation is. Are they able to afford, they usually say unga, fine. How many ungas can they afford today with that 1,000 shillings, 200 that they have? That's the question. With that 1,200, what can they do with in a month? Pay bills, water, pay steamer. You know, if you have a helper, because you're talking about the elderly, perhaps they have someone who's taking care of them. Maybe even some are taking care of their grandchildren who've been left there, or orphans, you know. And you look at all these, and one would look at a picture that is painted rosy for others to celebrate, but the Momanyi is really at a disadvantage and sad state. Why don't you think about these people who give you tax for you to make the macro level rosy?
Because unfortunately, again, our politics is not usually issue-based, and never is it about the citizen. Majority of people who go into power, they go into power looking in what can I earn, and that explains why majority of even the investments that we are seeing, usually when you look at it deeply, it's not about the common person, it's not about the citizen, not about the country, it's about how much am I able to make out of this deal. And that explains why we had to transition from NHIF that was really working so well to the SHA that is a little bit hard to every person. When we're talking about the common person, the people who make decisions when it comes to whether SHA is working or not, you hear that SHA is working. But when you go to the common Mwananchi, SHA is not working. But they really do not care, because for them it's about populism. We need, as a country, to start thinking on how we want to structure our politics and what exactly we want with our politicians. And also, as the citizens, we need to get to the level and realize that politics determine what you get at the end of it all. So we need to tie our service delivery with the people that we elect. So if we want service delivery, if we want services like healthcare and education to improve, we need to look at the people that we are electing, the people that we are bringing into power. Because most of the time, I think there's usually a disconnect when it comes to leadership and politics. You see Kenyans making very good abstracts, debates, but when it comes to the day of election, I don't know what usually happens. So I don't know whether, looking at even the by-elections just ended last week, and the people who have been elected and the people who have not been elected, and you ask yourself, what exactly as Kenyans do we look for in a leader? So is it the style of how politics is done? Is it about the money that exchanges hands? Who makes decision on who gets in the ballot, who gets elected? So that's where the biggest problem is. But again,
can't it be a combination of all of those things? Yes. Or is it not a combination of all of those things that would then make one concerted decision? That there are some people who would vote, and interestingly enough, I mean, it sounds crazy, but that's the truth. Yeah. And it comes into perspective that somebody will vote on how somebody looks. Yeah. Their looks, aesthetics, we're talking about that. How somebody makes them feel. Somebody will make a decision based on that. Yeah. Somebody will make a decision based on how somebody performed before. Yeah. Somebody will make a decision on how they spoke to them on a particular day and they don't forget it. Somebody will make a decision based on the fact that somebody gave them 2 strings of sukuma wiki and a packet of flour. Come on, these are the truth. These are the, or sweets.
The vulnerabilities on the ground, in a way, I would say, contribute to the type of leaders that we have. But beyond the vulnerabilities, of course, there's also the aspect of people never knowing the importance of their vote. So in other countries, people know exactly what their vote means. But here in Kenya, I think people have not come to the level of understanding that their vote is very important, and their vote should not just even be bought, because we have seen people selling their votes maybe for 100 shillings, 200 shillings, and it's quite sad. So until we get to that level that every Kenyan, whether educated or not, understands the value of their vote, I think that's a point now we'll be able to make decision, or rather have leaders who really have the interest of the country at heart. Another aspect that really lacks in our politics and in our governance is the aspect of accountability. So during the campaign period, of course, you have the manifestos. People, they are usually very rosy. But now when it comes to the point of implementation, as a citizen, you never go back and say that when you were campaigning, you promised us ABCD. Have you delivered? No. So that is also a challenge. And I think one of the things that maybe you ask is whether the right people are listening.
Right.
Or rather, this report is going to the right people. I think one of the things that the president has always been said is that he has a debt that he needs to clear, but us as Kenyans, we never give a solution. And in this report of Who Owns Kenya, we are giving a solution that you do not have to go and borrow again. You have resources here that you can use and use very well to be able to collect as much money as you want. In a recent report that was released by Oxfam, I think 2 weeks ago, it shows that for every 100 shillings that is collected in this country, 68 shillings goes to pay debts. So you only remain with 32 shillings, and that 32 shillings is supposed to pay government employees, it's supposed to provide services and all that. So in a nutshell, the government is constrained. But instead of the government looking on who is not being taxed, the government is still going back to this local mwananchi who is already crippled, with taxes already, and they are forgetting that there's a huge wealth base that can be taxed, to cushion a majority of these people. So the land.
This speaks to mwananchi who perhaps needs to be aware of this information, like the report from Oxfam, the report from KHRC, and interrogate and connect the dots on what that means. Because just looking at it, we talk about 2% who control land in the country. What does that mean? We talk about individuals who own these multi-billion enterprises that sell wares to Kenyans. You know what I mean? And you look at the percentage that consumes all these products coming from this less percentage, and that means that the majority have the power because they are the ones who are purchasing. So if they connect the dots, they will understand the need, first of all, of having good people in power that would be able to pass good policies that will cushion them. Because here we are talking about, there's a saying in Nairobi, you can easily walk around in Runda, you can run in the morning in Runda, because why? The streets are lit well. You can drive your Lamborghini in the Rundas. Why? Because the roads are smooth, You can enjoy the air because there's no sewer system that has burst. But when you go to where the majority of where Nairobi residents live, the story is different. We have no lighting, there is no water, sewer system is all over the place. Have Kenyans understood the power that they have in their vote? Have they understood the power of electing good people in office that would change their situation to be better? Annette.
Thanks. In 2022, after the general elections, we were left in a limbo, wondering what does the ordinary citizen psyche look like? Yeah, because it was bare when you look at what we need as a nation, leaders with integrity. And I know individuals with integrity have presented themselves for these high-end offices, including that of the presidency. But is that what we want as Kenyans? And having said that, there's work to do to just unpack and understand what do we want as Kenyans. And as the saying goes, the leaders that we have are a mirror of the people. And so for me, we are at a point as Kenyans, we just need to pause and ask ourselves, what do we want? Because the moment you get the right leaders in office, leaders who have the interest of the people at heart, leaders with integrity, they'll definitely make the right policy decisions. You will make pro-people decisions. You will ensure that you do not have the higher funding education model that is geared towards deepening inequality, that is geared towards privatizing education. You will ensure that you are not working hard towards privatizing health in the country, which everything and policy decisions that we are seeing, especially in those critical sectors, point to that. So the earlier we realize as Kenyans that we have this power. I mean, what does the Constitution say? The Constitution says sovereign power belongs to the people. So by ensuring that we are electing to Parliament, to the county assemblies, leaders that have our interest at heart, it means that during the planning and budgeting process, they will not push monies towards CDF. They will not push monies towards award development funds that at the end of the day is a campaign tool for them. So that they'll come back and tell you, you see, we put roads here. But they are telling you that so that you can again re-elect them. So it's not that they're doing it for you, but it's for them. So the earlier we realize and just push that we have parameters to which we are looking at when we are electing people to office, that would be a good starting point. Right now, we are all having this conversation about 2027. But the options are speaking otherwise. And sometimes when I see it, especially post the by-elections that we recently had just last week, and the low voter turnout, something that was conspicuous out there, I keep on asking myself, is it that the youth refused to go vote because they knew that they are either voting the opposition or the current regime, which has completely failed them? Are we seeing an awakening? Is that a boycott by the youth, or what are we basically saying? So importantly is that the ballot decisions that we make as Kenyans, and that can only happen if we have an awakening, if we have the right political education to also understand that why people hold offices is for political reasons, to manage resources, be it public resources, be it monies, and be it natural resources. So we should ensure that whoever we are entrusting this responsibility with, be it the executive or the parliament, is that person that has our interest at heart. If we don't do that, we will continue to be in this situation perpetually. And yet, post the election, we start complaining, oh, it's not working, we go to protest. So this time around, we have an opportunity to make it right.
Do you think that it's in the hearts and minds of people, Gladys? And I often think that there is a competition of circumstance when it comes to some of these things. That is it top of mind? Do we make the link between good leadership and the services that are required? And if we don't make the link, then it's difficult for us to demand it if we don't even see the connection. That oftentimes we think, okay, so here's a road in my village that it could be a national road, or it could then be a county road, whatever the case may be. But I don't make the connection that my kids are going to be late to school, or that the farmer will not be able to take produce to the market if the money that was supposed to be used to build that road has been diverted. I don't make the connection between corruption and lack of services. I don't make the connection then between that and good and proper leadership. If I don't make that connection, can I demand something? Can I demand that, if I have not even in my head seen how it works out, how it plays out?
Of course, if there's no that connection, you cannot be able to demand. And I think during the 2024 Gen Z, I would say, uprising, I think we were able to, even the government itself and the politicians were able to really realize indeed the sovereign power belongs to the people. And at that time, if you remember, the Gen Z were really looking at that finance bill and analyzing it and sharing it, and you could clearly see that indeed there's a shift. So for the biggest time, or rather for the longest time in Kenya, politics has always been about tribalism and the Mutuetu syndrome. But now I think this is are going to be changing, especially with the new generation of citizens that we have. Now we're talking about the Gen Z. Right now, the crop of citizens that we have are quite aware. And then also the digital space is really bringing a lot of awareness. And it's something that all stakeholders, including the civil society and the media, needs to take advantage of and see how best we can be able to do a proper political sensitization and education to voters and to citizens come 2027, so that our election of 2027 should be more of issue-based, should be more of demanding and asking questions from leaders. What exactly? You have been maybe in leadership for the last maybe 5 or 10 years. What is it that you have given unto us? And then I think Kenyans should also get to the level of asking those very hard questions. For instance, we have the TJRC report, we have the Ndungo land report. Why is it that no one is bothering to implement those reports? And yet we spend a lot of money on those reports. Why is it that we do very good reports, we come up with very tax forces that really spend a lot of Kenyans' money, but at the end of it all, those reports go and lie somewhere because we lack the political will. So it's high time, even all of us, I would say all of us, we're talking of the civil society, we're talking of the media, the academia. I mean, we all come together and see how best we can come up with an agenda, agenda-based, issue-based election campaign come 2027. But again, we are grappling with the country, we are grappling with high unemployment. High unemployment is a big, big problem. And as a country, we have also never recovered from the COVID-19 impact. So majority of people, not necessarily youth, are no longer able to make a living. So these are people who politicians are really taking advantage of, and they'll pay them as little as 200 shillings to ensure that they go and cause havoc to another person maybe who is campaigning and all that. So we need to, as a country, think of how we are going to address the issue of unemployment, how we are going to task leaders who are in positions of power to see how they're going to address unemployment. And of course, it's not carrying our Kenyans and taking them to those Middle East countries to kufanya hiyo kazi ya maid and all that, because again, we need to ask ourselves, what is it that we lack as a country that we cannot be able to produce? Why is it that as a country we cannot do industrialization? Because if you look at majority of developed countries, there is no developed country that has ever developed, or rather has ever arisen from, importing things. This country currently, we're importing small things like toothpicks, and these are things that we can be able to produce here. So why is it our production sectors are not working? Why is it our energy cost is quite exorbitant, to the extent that even someone who was thinking of opening a salon or a kinyozi, he can no longer do that because of the cost of energy, electricity. So as a country, I think, as Annette has said, we need to pause, because things are not okay. We need to pause and ask ourselves, where exactly are we going wrong? And what exactly can we be able to do so that we can go back to an economy that works for the citizen? We can go back to an economy that really realizes that this citizen is the one who contributes this tax that I'm using as a leader, and I really need to take good care of them.
I think, Annette, even as Gladys says that, is the citizenry finally ready for that change? Are we looking at a citizenry that come the election, they will wake up and say no to that bribe? They will say, I will vote for the right candidate? Or is this just another talk?
I'm really hopeful. And why I say this was demonstrated by the Gen Zs in 2024 and also in 2025. And when you see the trends, both in Kenya and also regionally, democracy is going down. And this is going down because we have been duped by our leaders. And that's why we saw, for instance, Kenyans ready to build hospitals, because that's what they care about. Because you, as our leaders, have failed us, we can contribute this money for one of our own and ensure that we cater for the medical bills. We can go build schools. We have people in diaspora right now that are really yearning to come and build schools in this country, invest in the healthcare. But unfortunately, they are raising concerns that the political architecture does not allow them, because they're asking for kickbacks. The corruption around it really is an impediment. So I am really hopeful, and I think when you look at where the conversation is going, slowly by slowly we are getting there. And I know for sure, with the right political education and the centering of our politics around the economic and social rights. If you notice, in 2022, the campaigns, especially by both the opposition and the government of the day, was about the economic and social rights. And that's why they were voted into power, because they indicated we are not going to borrow anymore. And to a Kenyan, when somebody tells you they are not going to borrow anymore, what does that mean? It means resources are being freed to invest in the healthcare, in the education, in social protection. They said our wage bill will be capped within the 35% that the law requires. You know, what does that mean? It means resources are freed again to the social spending. So we are in the right trajectory. I personally hope that eventually we will get there, because we have seen again time and again where people act sober during the campaign or before the election, and they say these leaders are not perhaps investing in the healthcare, in education, but then when it comes to the ballot, the wrong decisions are made. But as I've said again, I'm really hopeful that this is going to change, because we have seen the interest, especially in the economic and social rights aspect of things. And so we hope that this time around, with the right political education, when the youth who we urge to go out and register for as voters for 2027 go out to vote, they'll vote the right leaders and ensure that their interests are catered for when people get to power.
Indeed, and necessary for us to have this conversation, to look and to I mean, it sounds like we're almost cliche, but to make it part of the discourse as we go along. And so we thank you, Gladys Mungai, for being here with us this morning, and Annette Merima from the Kenya Human Rights Commission. Gladys, Senior Program Advisor on Land, Environment and Resource Justice and Program Manager. Annette, thank you so much for joining us this morning and allowing us to have this conversation, but then also encouraging us to continue to have these conversations as we go along. And so thank you for doing that. And thank you for keeping the Situation Room getting into Monday. Let's not end this without being on a note of optimism, because at its core, ICA Line is in the business of human growth and the joy of a better life. They want you to romance the benefits of planning for the future in an upbeat and memorable way. This isn't just about fear, and it's not about fear at all. It's about the great life you can build when you're prepared. They help discerning individuals create wealth and protect themselves through innovative services, so you can actually plan for the future. Whether it's wealth generation, protecting assets, or retirement security, ICA Line is the brand for you. So if you're planning for the future with insurance and investments, it's high time. If you're not, it's high time that you did. So what's your plan? Get started on that better life at icealion.co.ke at 10:01. Good morning.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Lea Ubaga. Activists in the coast region are now calling on the government to enact a special law that will protect Kenyans from online sexual assault or harassment. Led by Eric Mugonja and Victor Kaudo, the activists have defended the decision of human rights organizations to file a lawsuit in court to stop the implementation of a new law signed by President William Ruto that protects Kenyans from online harassment, claiming that the law is inconsistent with the constitution.
Sheria ziko, lakini mtu wa kuonyesha njia wale watoto, ama iwe wasichana ama wavulana ama Mkenya yote, wale watu ndio hawako. Zamani ilikuwa mtoto ni wa jamii, siku hizi kila mtu na mambo yake.
Tayari kuna ile misuse of Cyber Crime Act ambayo tayari iliweza kuwekwa kidole na rais, lakini sheria ile tumeona kwamba imeenda haraka mbio sana, hata kuweza kuinfringe na kukiuka zile haki za kimsingi, haki za kujieleza ambazo tumepewa na katiba.
Lawyer Jacinta Mbeyu has insisted that the law signed by President Ruto did not involve Kenyans at the grassroots level through public participation, which has led to the suspension of the implementation.